I don't want to compete with all these people at the time because I was like 3 year Andy, and
And
I
now
was
you're competing with them again.
yeah. Well then I started doing 7:30, and people end, and then it's whatever. They usually those shows end, and everybody's like, well, where are we gonna watch now? And then they come on over here. So that's usually how that works.
I saw someone leave. Soy Pill left, which means that I think Ryland or whatever their name is, Rinyald, yeah. Which means that person's soon to follow.
Well, that's fine. That gives me time to load a bowl.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. How was everybody's day? Are we excited? Talk about the January 6th. Excited to.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about this for another 5 years.
5 years.
100 years of January 6th debates.
But I feel like it. But I did this, and so I was on what was it Wix last week. I did that 1v1, and then that guy just wouldn't let me talk about anything other than January 6th, and I was just like, all
You
right.
tried to set me up for that too, Gibbs. What the hell? That would have been me.
Well, yeah. Well, I didn't. I mean,
I would have rage quit.
to be fair, I wanted to rage quit.
Toy man, look at it.
Yeah, no. I calculated correctly. Sorry, I thought for a second that I left my other debate like an hour early. That was wild.
You left an hour early?
I looked at Central Time and I was like, oh god, it's not only 1 hour before, right? Not 2 hours.
No.
So, Gibbs, I see your shirt. Did you join the Palestinian cause or what?
My shirt?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You mean the Boogaloo Boys shirt we got going on over here, bro? Don't what you talking about?
I see a bunch of watermelons on that thing. Look like a Palestine support to me.
It's also a southern
guys,
thing.
I'll be right back and use the restroom.
I don't know if you're aware of the South. We like watermelons. Big fans down here.
You making a racist comment?
Ooh.
I live in one of the most black states in the Union, in the South.
You don't put tahini. White people don't put tahini on watermelons. We do down here where I'm from.
I can hear your dog whistles loud and clear, Gibbs.
Tahini, bro. What do you know about that tahini? You don't know none of that.
Probably too spicy for him.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't tahini like a sesame seed oil?
No, it's tahini.
I know, I'm being stupid.
Drop the I.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Gibbs, he's insulting our culture.
I know. I'm very sad about it. You don't know about this tahini, bro.
I'm Polish as fuck. I can't be anywhere near that shit.
That's good for the soul.
It'll kill me.
All the spice is good
Spice
for you.
is good for the sinuses too.
Yeah, it's a key component of why people were able to be coke runners in Miami, I think. I mean, really, there's no way they could have been doing this in some northern place. They definitely had to be like, hold on, I gotta eat some peppers after railing this fucking gasolina.
There you go.
That's my theory.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna have to cancel because I've been having audio issues for the past few days, and I've just been fucking going back and forth with all the software and shit.
Oh, good. All right, yeah. Well,
I went to a Guitar Center today to make sure that all my shit works, and the guy was like, "Yeah, no, everything's fine." I'm like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
I still had the buzzing noises, and so now I've isolated it to probably dirty power shit.
All right, yeah. Let's kick everything off. Well, that's good
that
that's good that you can fix that. The audio problems can be the worst thing to fix because you can't hear them yourself half the time. But yeah, I don't know where Ryan Y'all is. I'm sure he'll be here or she'll be here or whatever they are. I don't know this person will be here at some point or not, but that's fine. We'll run it with the original panel anyway. Welcome to another episode of Give Me a Break. We're going to be talking about why the left can't let January 6th go. It's a crazy time out here. We're 5 years past it, and it still comes up every debate that I have, I feel like. So we're going to see why that is. And I've gathered a group of individuals here to talk about it. Tyler, why don't you kick us off? Tell us who you are and what you think and why.
All right, average debate enjoyer moved to YouTube recently. So when I look at this and I see left-wing pundits and sycophants to that party, which isn't the majority, but a good amount of them, They can't stop talking about January 6th 5 years later because it takes them back to a better time when the country was truly against Trump. Even a majority of Republicans, his approval rating sank lower than Joe Biden's was on aggregate for the last 2 years of his tenure in office. It's kind of like Uncle Rico, where he's constantly talking about if Coach would have put him in, he would have went to state. It's very similar here. Plus, they have this weird attraction with suburban white women that are married as well, so it's very Uncle Rico-esque. But essentially, the Obama coalition is on its last leg, and this is the last time the Trump movement was significantly less popular. So obviously, it's about calling back to this time. The reason why is currently we have a party that's in a civil war. They failed to make new leadership for the party. They're split down the middle. They have no message, no funding. They're not serious about governing on many of the issues. Not all of them. There's still a couple good ones, but on many of the issues that they push. So since November 2024, almost every narrative against Trump and the GOP has failed. A few of them had traction, Signalgate, Obrego Garcia, and other. There are a couple legitimate others, but all of those were beaten like a horse with a dead stick until they couldn't juice anything else out of them, and even long after the public got over it. And none of these scandals really landed. And those were the few that actually stuck with all the massive piles of shit thrown at the wall. The Democratic Party is in a civil war right now, and the only thing that can unite them is uniting under the banner of hating Trump because they just oppose each other at all these different ends. And I'm going to go into that when we get there. I really think the Dems should have 2028 as a rebuilding season, start aiming back for the center, go back to how the 90s were. Because if they keep talking about this, eventually somebody's going to compare it to the Crossfire Hurricane inception, which was much worse and a bigger manipulation of the political and justice system to go after your political rivals. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's go to Bones.
All right, I am Bones of Doom, known by Terps as a shitty WoW player, known by racists as a troll, known by creationists as a moron. But today I come to you as a mid-wit panelist. And let's roll right into my intro here. I'm going to talk. I'm going to give an excerpt from our great leader, Donald J. Trump. The Electoral College, it is a disaster for democracy. We can't let this happen. We should march on Washington and stop this travesty. Our nation is totally divided. Let's fight like hell and stop this great and disgusting injustice. The world is laughing at us. This is in 2012. He tweeted this during the Obama election season in his second term. So today's debate on why won't the left shut up about January 6th is a really stupid premise on its own, if not for the fact that this day we still have massive retards who wish to debate about the facts related to the insurrection. And we still have people who completely deny the facts about it. Trump knew that he was pushing knowingly false claims of election fraud before, during, and after the 2020 election. January 6th isn't just in the past, it gave us a warning as to the extent of his depravity and to the lengths that he will go to, specifically to keep himself in power. He and his close circle of cronies lied about election fraud, completely lied about mail-in voting, completely lied about ballot harvesting. And all of his court cases, save for one small little Pennsylvania case, completely floundered. He attacked mail-in voting when it suited him. He convinced millions through his tweets, through his statements, that democracy itself was rigged. And the entire events leading up to January 6th showed that he was willing to let the Capitol burn in order to maintain political power. Trump himself still clings on to January 6th as he has pardoned every single person convicted of a crime there, including the violent ones. And he is now turning Ashley Babbitt into a martyr for this cause, with giving her honors, military honors specifically, as a part of that little deal, and a little bit of $5 million cash to her family as well. What this shows is that Trump is fundamentally incapable of holding fair elections, and he does not care about any of the tenets of democracy. He does not care about maintaining the republic. He does not care about the Constitution. And he should not be a leader of a free nation that strives to set itself as a global example for democracy as a whole. That's it.
Right. Thank you so much. We're gonna go to Rinyald. Rinyald.
Rinyald.
Rinyald. We're gonna go ahead. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and all that good jazz, and what you think.
Nice to finally meet you guys. All right, I've known about you for a long time. I'm Rinyald I'm at Rinyald on almost every platform. I think there's two reasons why January 6th has not and should not be let go for the left. J6 represents so many of the internal problems we see with the Trump admin. He looks at our values as a roadblock and not something to be upheld. Trump tried to violate the law to steal the election. He tried to weaponize the DOJ. He and his campaign knowingly lied to the people about claims of fraud in each election he's been in, and Trump tried to exploit that violence to pressure Congress to decertify. And the second is that Trump won't let J6 go. The right goes, let J6 go, and then Trump silently, pardons all the J6 rioters. The right says, let J6 go, and then he still refuses to say that he lost. My proposition is that the left lets J6 go whenever the right stops running people that hate our democracy. I mean, you could say, well, that was 4 years ago. It's like, Trump supporters see a red hot stove, and they put their hand on it in 2021. And now when the left says, hey, maybe you shouldn't put your hand back on that red hot stove, they go, well, that was 4 years ago. I don't know. I think we need to be the adults in the room and make sure that everybody's not electing people that fundamentally hate our democracy.
All right. Thank you so much, Sadie.
Hi, I'm Sadie. I stream on Pentuple TV. You can find me on X, SadieGirl216. I find it laughable that we're still talking about this 5 years later, 4 years later, whatever it is at this point, because of the 6 months prior to January 6th, where we were talking about billions of dollars nationwide in property damage, Americans dead in major cities, police officers, innocent bystanders, protesters, Portland and Seattle lockdown, U.S. Treasury breach, Secret Service had to get all those protesters, all of whom were released, by the way, who went on to go ahead and deface our national monuments, the Lincoln Memorial, the World War II Memorial. And January 6th is a great sweep for all those things that happened over a continuous 6-month period. That's why they're holding on so hard to it. Also, I have to say it's the obsession with Hollywood and the Kino event that was January 6th. This is our fight against the empire type of agenda to push forward. It's fear mongering and exactly why they didn't win in 2024. And continuing down this path is only going to make you lose harder, because we have moved on from January 6th, just like we moved on from the BLM riots. And extremists on both sides of the platform, on both sides, they should be condemned. And we should be having normal middle of the road conversations, but we just can't do that as long as this is going to continue to be a conversation and an issue.
All right. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Soy Pill.
Yeah, on the soy pill, first I gotta say, Reynolds and Bones, they took all of my talking points. I had so many facts laid out, and they went and they said them all right in front of me like I wasn't even there. But I do want to say this. It's very obvious why we're still talking about January 6th. Donald Trump tried to subvert the democratic process. He tried to steal an election. He has refused to concede this election in 2020. He tried to organize forgery. Well, he didn't try. He organized forgery of false electors, violated the Electoral Count Act. People have gone to jail for this. And essentially, he is now the president, and it doesn't matter if it was 4, 10, or 80 years ago. He tried to steal the election. And if you're trying to keep someone in power who will not follow the democratic process, as per his own admission, it is still an issue. And we should all be aware of that. And we can talk about the riot and all that. Unironically, when I first saw that happen, I thought it was like, oh, this was just something that got out of hand. It's not Trump's fault. And even if it's not, I think he did incite. I think he did instigate. And I do think make it more. We can just focus on the false electors thing and the fact that Trump tried to steal it. That's so fucking important. And we're never going to get over it, because he hasn't got over 2020, just like everyone else here said. He's still focused on the fact that he hasn't lost. He asked people in Georgia to find the votes for him, votes that weren't there. He had a drafted letter from an attorney general that he tried to install that was already alleging fake things about these electors. This is all him trying to steal it. And if we want to argue about those facts, I guess we can get into that. But if you can look at all of that and say, no big deal, I think you're insane or deluded. So.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's get into it. Go ahead.
All right. I'll go from the smallest to the largest. Soy, you misquoted the Georgia call. He didn't ask them to find votes that weren't there. He asked them to look through the votes that were there and find the ones that were made in error, made unjustly. And
He said, "Find me the number of votes I need to win." Specifically,
yeah, he didn't tell him to
actually.
find. Yeah, but you claimed he said he claimed to have asked to find votes that weren't there. That is exactly
Okay,
the
then I
opposite of
misspoke.
what he
Sorry,
did.
excuse me. He said,
That's all I got
"Find
for
me
you.
the exact amount of votes I need to win," which is fucking insane. But excuse me.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was saying in the call
Excuse me for
basically, we
misspeaking. Yeah,
know
it's
there's
very bad.
fraud. We know
Wait. So do you agree that he said find me votes, right?
Yeah, he said find me votes, and then there's more.
Specifically, the amount he needs to
Then what
the
win,
fuck was
because
that
there was
for?
no actual.
Well, because there's more context.
Why are you being pedantic about this?
It's
You knew
because
what he
context
was talking
matters. No, I know what he's mad. I know what he
The
said. I knew what he's
context
talking
matters,
about, and Soy
except-
misquoted it.
except
So
when
you doubling
do-
down on the
you knew
misquote
exactly-
and ignoring the.
you
Hold on.
knew exactly what he was
We
saying.
don't just
You
talk
knew
over each other.
exactly what he was saying. Stop spurring
Hold
out.
on.
You knew exactly
I knew what he was
was
saying, and Soy misquoted it. That's how I was able to correct it. Now you doubling
So,
down on
yeah.
this misreading
Yeah, that
shows me
correction
that you are okay with lying.
Correction meant
You are
nothing. The
fine
essential
with
fact.
dishonesty.
The
hold on.
The central
Yes, you
fact.
are
Hold on,
fine
hold on.
lying.
One at a time.
You
All right,
are a
Tyler,
liar
go
and
ahead.
you're
Go
full
ahead,
of lies.
Tyler. Go ahead. Finish out, Tyler. Then
Okay.
we'll go to you both.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the central
Okay,
fact.
so,
is that
hey,
Hey,
your thing's
hold
up,
on,
Tyler.
Bill.
Shut
Hold
up.
on. Let him go, Tyler. Go. Then you can
Okay.
respond to both.
Okay, so Ringgold, you gave a really solid argument that Trump keeps bringing it up. He just went into everyone who thinks the election didn't go smoothly hates democracy is a little bit of just insult casting.
That's
That's
not
all.
what I said.
That's
You did say that. You said
No, I said
how
him trying
Trump
to
and his
violate.
followers hate democracy.
Yeah. So what?
I
what
said,
did we
well,
actually
no,
say?
wait,
Can
hold
you
on.
let us correct
I said that he hates democracy because he tried to violate the law to steal the election, and Trump supporters hate democracy for putting him up as their candidate.
He didn't violate the law. He just interpreted it. That's the
The
president.
Electoral Count Act.
He
He was trying
violated
to
the
break the
Electoral
Electoral
Count
Count Act.
The president is able to interpret laws any way he sees fit.
The
Yes or no?
interpretation.
Yes
the
or no?
interpretation.
Yes or
What was
no?
the interpretation? What was the interpretation?
The president is able to interpret laws how he sees fit, and the check on that is the Supreme Court. Yes or no?
Okay, sure. What was his legal argument?
His legal argument was that the Electoral College Act left an opening
Count
for
that.
him.
Nope.
Yes.
Wait, I have to
You're already-
correct you. You said it
I read
wrong.
the
It's
Eastman
not the
memo.
Electoral College Act. It's Electoral Count Act.
Oh,
You
sorry.
said it wrong, Tyler.
Yeah, my bad.
The
my bad.
Yeah, I know it's a correction that means absolutely nothing to your argument, but I just wanted to.
The argument wasn't that there's a loophole in the ECA. The argument was that the ECA is unconstitutional and that Vice President Pence has an Article 2 ability to, or like a 22nd Amendment
Yeah.
ability to just divert away from it. It wasn't that
Yes.
there's a loophole within the law. It was that we need to break the law because it's unconstitutional anyway. And
Or he
the
was in charge of
Supreme Court
breaking the
will
law.
not rule on it.
Well, I'm going to get into the legality of it after with Bone's statement claiming there was an insurrection when insurrection wasn't even charged, and the Supreme Court said the exact
But he
opposite.
did-
But
But he did absolutely
just claiming laws
try
are
to.
and without even a charge, let alone a conviction, is
It was admitted. It was admitted by Eastman. He said a minor violation of the ECA. He said this is where we diverge from the procedure laid out in the ECA. That's an admission.
They're
No one
allowed to
even
interpret
disputes.
laws.
That's
and
not an
then it goes to the-
interpretation.
Then it goes to yes, it is, and then it goes to the courts, and the courts decide if the president overreached.
Eastman's saying
This is
let's
the
break
exact
the
hold on, hold on.
ECA.
Yeah,
He didn't
I
say
killed
let's
a
break
guy.
it.
I killed
That's
a guy.
not how a
but
novel
it's
legal-
my
no.
legal interpretation that the murder statutes
That's
wouldn't
not
apply
how.
to me.
That's not how the novel legal theory works. Something has to be prima facie.
Exactly how it works.
No, it is not. Something has to be unprima facie legal. Prima facie is at face value. It's a legal term. If something is not at its face illegal, you can make a novel legal theory around it. Murder is
Okay,
illegal.
it was at its face illegal. They literally
No, it's
said
not.
it was illegal. This violates the ECA.
That's not what Eastman said. Eastman,
Wait, if
when
someone- if
pressed in
someone
a private
says-
conversation
if
with
someone
no
says
proof,
this action is a divergence from this law. What else are we supposed to interpret it as?
that's not what he said. When Eastman said that is if this went to the SCOTUS, there's a good chance it could get voted down.
Can y'all quote it again?
What do you want me to quote? I mean, the fact that he emailed Greg Jacob while the certification was being paused due to the riots, saying, I'm just asking for a minor violation of the ECA.
Different interpretation. You can use the words, but that's legally, he is legally allowed to do this. That's why he wasn't charged with insurrection,
He's
violating
legally
this
allowed to
law.
violate
He
the
was
law,
charged.
guys.
And he was not
was
charged with
charged.
not with insurrection. No, he was not.
I'm
The
not
only
claiming
charge,
insurrection. I'm not
the
claiming
only
insurrection.
charge of it. Well, yeah, Bones did. The only charge of insurrection
Bones.
came from the Colorado Supreme Court when they tried to usurp federal power, and they got slapped down by the SCOTUS because they said Trump, at face value, was innocent of insurrection unless charged.
Okay,
And he
so
wasn't
I'm not
charged.
talking about an insurrection charge, but he was charged for trying to violate the law, for trying to violate the ECA via criminal
were his
conspiracy
charges
to
again?
stop the certification of the election.
What were his charges again?
It was a criminal conspiracy.
It was fraud, and obstruction was what he was charged with. No conspiracy.
Was the Jack Smith case not a criminal conspiracy case?
It was a fraud case. 3 counts of fraud and 1 count of
Are
obstruction.
you sure you're not thinking
Maybe
of the
vice
Georgia
versa.
case?
It was vice versa. 3 obstructions and one fraud. My bad.
Are you certain you're not thinking about the Georgia
Yes,
case? Because I'm
yeah,
pretty sure
and-
Trump v. US was a
Fannie Williams was a
criminal
RICO
conspiracy.
case. Fannie Williams in Georgia, where I live, was a RICO case. Yes, I'm not confusing the two. Jack Smith charged him with 1 count of fraud, 3 counts of obstruction. Come on, guys. This is basic
Okay,
stuff.
well, does obstructing the election make it any better? I mean, he was still charged with it, right?
It doesn't, I mean, you could obstruct, you didn't obstruct the election, you obstructed the count. The election was already done by 2 months at that point.
What's the law that dictates the electors being counted? It's like it's like
The
the
Electoral Count Act.
Count
How did he
Act,
violate
something.
said Count Act, Tyler? What did he do?
He didn't violate it. He interpreted it in a way that was too liberal, and he was
Minor
He didn't do that
violation,
on
dog?
Yeah, he interpreted. The president has this right. It's the same thing when Joe Biden said, "I don't have
That's
the
why you
right."
violate the law.
He flat out said, "I don't have the right to cancel student loans in this way," and then tried to do it that way after. He said, "I don't have this legal avenue," and then still
Can he take a
pursued it.
different
Okay,
legal
And then
avenue?
I want to
He took
wait,
9 different
Tyler,
legal-
Tyler.
7
I want to
different
lay
legal
out some
avenues?
facts. Tell
It's
me
the
if I
same
get
exact
something
thing.
wrong here. When they have a top-down directive from Meadows, the chief of staff, and Rudy Giuliani to say, let's forge documents to appear to be the correct electors so that Pence can pick these false electors when they are sent to me. You're saying this is just a minor interpretation of how the law is interpreted and not the reason why all these people were charged with 8 felony counts each of forgery?
Were they charged federally? I'm pretty sure they were charged at the state level for violating state laws.
Yes.
States
The
have their
Michigan
own
attorney
laws.
He
charged them
violated laws.
for
Yes.
felony
In the state.
forgery.
Because the state has their own actions. You're just amalgamating all different laws from different schools of law all together into one. The state has state laws, yes. Certain states have those laws. Every state has a different way they pick
So let
electors.
me rephrase.
They
this
weren't
a little
charged in every state.
All right, so I get the argument from some of y'all on the left, which is just okay. There were some crimes committed, and then I go on.
We do a little crime.
Oh yeah, there's a little crime. This is y'all's argument. There's some crimes committed. You know, I don't know. I don't even know if I agree with that. But let's just say hypothetically, for the sake of this panel and moving it on, I do. Let's just for funsies, right? And I don't know even if I agree with what y'all said that it amounts to the level of a coup, or it's any worse than say what happened to Biden, where all these people voted and then y'all swapped them out last minute for somebody else. Now hold on. Just hear me out. So I'm sitting here and I'm seeing all these things, and it's 5 years later, right? And we're going on panels, and I know, and we're not talking about this specific panel, but the reason we're having this panel is I'm going on panels, and we're talking about things like, is Trump a good president, or the latest news that's happening, and we go and talk about it, and then inevitably, January 6th comes up, and we can't move on. What is this obsession?
Okay.
I don't understand.
Gibbs, let me give you an
hold on.
Let me give you an analogy. Can I give you an
give it
analogy,
to me,
Gibbs? All
because
right.
I'm
Let's
literally
say
just-
you're gonna get married. You're married, right, Gibbs?
Okay, sure.
Okay. So right before you get married, like you're about to give her the ring. You give her the ring. They're about to say I do, and then you found out 10 seconds ago she fucked your best man in the closet, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now 5 to 10 years later, she says, "Don't worry, babe. You can trust me." Would you trust her?
You know, I mean,
Don't even say 5 to 10. Say like you tried to get married again 3 years later.
Oh,
yeah.
And even though there's evidence of her, there's like literally a video of her getting plowed by your best man. She continually says it never happened.
I mean, sounds like
Would you
something-
trust her?
It sounds like AI. I don't know. You know, like
Sounds like
No, this is
Theory to
before
me.
AI existed. This was before AI. This was 2020. Okay.
you know, I
Like,
don't
AI
know.
doesn't exist.
I probably wouldn't trust him in that scenario. However,
Okay.
this doesn't seem like the same
There you
scenario
go.
to me. It doesn't seem like the same scenario, right? Because this is what it comes down to, right? Like I go. Well, let me give you the problem, right? So there has been a contingent of Republicans, and that have said this since, I don't know, before I was born, probably. And all of them are like, we don't trust the government. They're in the cahoots. There's this uniparty. They've been all saying this, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, there's a populist. Trump gets in. And he goes in there, and it's like, oh, we see during his first term an unprecedented amount of lawfare against him. We see as soon as he gets out an unprecedented amount of lawfare, what looks to me, what I would like to say is ticky-tack going for charges, right? And that seems like it's the precedent that's established. Then the Republicans turn around, and now they're doing the lawfare back. And I see the Dems going, woe is me, we're persecuted, like, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, well, it's the same as same, but no different. But then you'll expect me at the same time to believe somehow January 6th wasn't just ticky-tack lawfare. And y'all are looking up like, oh, we got a quote of him saying this one time in a meeting somewhere, and that's like, oh, go look for votes 4 times. Yeah, I mean,
it was
if
the
it's
memo.
coming up to if it's coming up on the election, you really think
we've got a whole
hold on, if
list.
you really think people are like rigging the election, aren't you going to want to investigate? Say, all right, go find these votes, like go look. Like, I mean, I don't see too much. Like bad in that.
I agree. I
You
partially
find
agree that people
it's
take the Raffensperger call and make it out to be at like too much of a silver bullet when the silver bullet is right here. They were arguing the entire fucking time to break the law to have the vice president unilaterally choose Trump's electors. So my question to any Trump supporter who wants to talk about anything other than this is why the fuck would you vote for someone who tried to steal the last election?
But I guess what I'm saying is it feels to me that the elections have been stolen is what a lot of people feel like. I'm not saying this, just to clarify. All right.
Yeah,
There is a large because like, that's what the
I lived through 2000 hanging chads in Florida when the brother of the president was the governor. Like this
George,
shit
okay,
happened.
What's more clear?
Well, but I mean, the illegal
defeated.
like this is why the illegal aliens redistricting thing is a fight right now, right? Like because Republicans are going, we've been getting our votes stolen for all these years, and the Dems are saying, no, that's not how it's going down. It seems to me like one side's accusing each just of games, and I don't see why this is any worse than the other. One type of stealing is a different kind of stealing.
The difference is that Donald Trump made an effort to throw electoral votes out for 7 states that didn't vote for him. That's the difference, is that you can talk about like weird procedure about who gets to vote, who doesn't get to vote, who gets removed from the voter or the voter rolls or whatever. Donald Trump said, hey, I realize that all of you voted for Joe Biden. Hey, I realize that the state executives certified all of it. Pence, just throw that out. You don't just fuck Congress. They don't need to say anything about it. You just choose my electors. There's nothing more I can't think of a more anti-democracy thing that Trump could have possibly done other than literally just canceling the election.
We'll say
he tried to change the electoral votes for 7 states.
Well, let's go to Sadie. You're the most pro-Trump person here, I think, like out of anybody here. So what is your thoughts on this so far? Do you agree with their assessments?
No, of course not. I don't think, like, in the grand scheme of things, I really don't think that there is anything more American. I was talking to Tyler about this before we joined the panel, but, this was obviously something that was going around right-wing circles, go to January 6th, go to January 6th. And I think that the underlying conversation that really isn't talked about a lot that, like, I was telling people was do not go to January 6th. The way this is being promoted, this is obviously going to be a fed op. Some bullshit's going to go down. Do not go to fucking January 6th. And wow, on January 6th, how surprised I was to perfectly see this Keno operation in front of the Capitol. It was lovely. And I know why Democrats are obsessed with it. And I think that the thing that like I really need to come to terms with is just like I don't care. Just like I'm not interested in discussing BLM riots anymore either.
Wait,
We're at a point
do
in
you
this
think
country.
the false electors was like a federal operation to trick Trump into making people forge documents to pretend to be the correct electors? Was that also a federal?
No, I think like the actual like just the shit that happened we saw them opening up the gates and allowing people to come into
Okay,
the
sure.
Capitol.
That's why I said like we don't even have to focus on that because that is a part of it. But I think the more damning thing is specifically trying to subvert the ECA by having people forge documents and pretend to be the real electors and make Mike Pence choose them, which is completely aside from the rioting part.
We're coming at it from a very different perspective because I agree with Tyler. Like a novel legal theory is not something that you can.
That's not a novel legal theory. They're
It
breaking
truly
the
is.
law.
Like,
That's why they were prosecuted.
Well, let me push back on that, Soy, just
You're
a little bit.
interpreting the law.
Let me just push that back.
Yeah.
and I'll
So
turn
if
it
I
back
were to
over
say
y'all.
I can kill someone because I want to, that is me interpreting the law. I'm just doing it wrong.
That's
Well, you're not the
facial
president of the
illegal.
United States,
Well, hold
and
on.
it's illegal.
Oh, I do want to examine 2 things that Sadie and Soy Pill brought up right now, right? Okay, so Soy Pill was like, well, let's not even talk about January 6th. Let's talk about the thing that's got more substance, right? And I would genuinely like agree with you. That's maybe a better way to do it. I don't think that's the way you can do it in this case, because for so long we've heard, oh, January 6th in and of itself was just a coup, right? Like they were trying to hang people. And then it turns out there really was some sort of FBI op or something going along lines. It seems like there's evidence to support there's some of these things. And that claim has kind of gone by the wayside as more and more evidence looking like it's sus, especially post-pardons. And it's moved to this kind of thing where we're at right now.
No, the electoral count act violations were not alleged like the day of, because we only got exposure to this right after. But obviously, everyone for a very short time or months after are exclusively talking about the big riot that happened. Which, by the way, I'm not saying that's irrelevant. Only reason I'm putting that aside is because you can kind of play games with, well, did Trump really incite it? Like maybe he just kind of encouraged it or didn't denounce it enough. And like, yes, okay, people came and said, hey, Trump, you really need to put a stop to this, and he refused to do it and tweeted out things like Mike Pence needs to do what needs to be done, and he failed you. But if we can put all that aside, just breaking the law by having these false electors go is enough to be like, oh, this guy does not give a shit about the democratic process. He will refuse to concede the election despite losing, and will 5 years later continue to say, hey, I'm not going to follow or uphold the results of the election when it happens. So why would you ever trust this person if unless you can just say right now, I am okay with the benevolent king who refuses to follow some of these laws. That's cool with me.
Whoa. How can you trust the Democratic Party after what they just did in the last election?
What did they do in the last election that is akin to breaking the law to try to steal it?
Voted for in the primary and put a new candidate in there that nobody voted for in the last 90 days.
Yeah, and then we had a referendum on that. Wait, well, Sadie, we had a referendum on that. Excusing the fact that this has nothing to do with saying the election never happened. We had a referendum on that. Everyone said, you know what? I don't like that. And more people voted for Trump. And if you want to say, okay, cool, that's fine. All right. But also, just because you could say, well, I don't trust the fact that they didn't put who I voted for in the primary in is absolutely not at all violating the law to subvert the democratic process. An equivalent would have been if Joe Biden or Kamala Harris had said, oh, you know what? I know you all majorly voted for Trump in this referendum on whether or not you like the Democrats, but no, never mind. The president is interpreting that I don't want to honor that election, and we're staying in office.
Referendum on January 6th. Why wasn't that same election a referendum on January 6th and proof for you to drop it because it didn't work?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
It's not a matter. This isn't a matter of messaging. It's a matter of holding Republicans accountable for trying to uproot our democracy.
Yeah. If you want to say Republicans don't care about someone who's a liar, yeah, obviously they're voting for Trump. But if you want to say why are people still talking about it? Because it's happened. He tried to subvert the election, and yeah, just because a bunch of idiots don't give a shit does not mean we shouldn't care.
I would just like to have a referendum on that. We
didn't have a referendum on whether or not he did it. We had a referendum on whether or not Republicans care.
Yeah. Other people care.
Can all three of the Republicans on the panel say, I don't really care that Donald Trump tried to steal 2020?
There's only
I don't view it from your same point of view, and I never will. We're coming from a very different foundation.
If it was just a novel legal theory, why did Eastman ask Giuliani to be put on a pardon list?
No. Are you really going to bring up this argument when we're seeing unprecedented, pardons being thrown out for people who may or may not have?
I'm asking if it was legal, why would you be pardoned? If it was legal, why would you?
Probably the same.
Because obviously,
probably the same reason Hunter Biden. Probably the same reason Hunter Biden was put on a pardon.
Hunter Biden smoked crack and committed crimes. Actually, he did a bunch of people.
A bunch of people that didn't commit any crimes on the January 6th committee.
This didn't happen. This was 2020. So the lawfare precedence doesn't work here.
I just told you probably for the same reason. Probably for the same reason that Joe Biden blanket pardoned a bunch of people leaving office. Because when the other party comes in, they go after the previous administration.
Right, and it still wasn't awarded. So you can ask for whatever. But
if he wanted this, if the check for this kind of behavior is going to the courts, why would he want a pardon to evade all judicial inquiry into it?
Because the check is for him to go to the courts for his actions, not for somebody that's advising him. They don't have the same legal protections as the president.
He dictated this person to do this, just to be clear.
Okay, but they don't have the same
confirmed that he both knew and told him to do this.
Yeah, they don't have the same legal protections. That's why he'd asked for a pardon.
Right, so what we're asking is, you're saying because the president did it and not someone who doesn't have the protections of the president, it's okay that he tried to steal the election because he's allowed to do that, just to be clear.
I think he was just questioning the election. I would phrase it as
It's not
no,
questioning-
it
it's
wasn't
not
questioning.
the election
That's
to
what I'm
Throw
unilaterally
out,
certify
throw
my
out the people.
electors.
Yeah, I'd say that's what it
Unilaterally
is.
throw out the votes of the
Oh
people.
my
and so,
God.
okay, I'm fine with that.
Throwing
If
out
Tyler wants to
electors
make
is
the
just
argument,
backing off.
it's okay to try to steal the election. If you're the president, I think that's okay. You just have to understand that we're not okay with that, and that's why we're still talking about it.
We'll get to that. I got a question for you guys when we get there, but I want to answer Gibbs' question before we move on too much. So, Gibbs, the reason why is a complete lack of empathy and being awful at politics. Not only was 2024 a referendum on this, but people that constantly go back to January 6th don't understand that most people that don't already agree with them think somewhat differently than them. It's a complete lack of empathy, and they think if they just keep hammering down this point that hasn't worked for 4 years, suddenly it'll start working.
We're not trying to do it to get
Yeah, they
leverage
don't
over you,
understand.
Tyler. It's because we actually
My-
have a legitimate problem with it. And if you don't see that, we're doing a bad part of messaging, but it's because you're being so obtuse and don't care. Like you just admitted that if someone tries to steal the election, it's fine if they're president. We care about
No,
that.
if a legitimate
They don't
attempt to steal the
understand.
election or an
It's
actual
my-
He was
coup
just asking questions. He was just.
It's
jacking
my
off.
or an
opinion.
actual insurrection.
You guys don't understand. It was my opinion that the sky is red, and then the voters voted, and they voted that the sky's red. So I don't know why you guys keep saying it's blue. Like,
Question of
this
the
is
prompt is
ridiculous.
why do people keep bringing this up during panels, especially when it's not a panel related to it? And the reason why
because
Well,
is
this
Gibbs
is a
said
panel
in
related
panels
to
talking
essential
about
topic.
Trump's job
People
now,
without
and that's still
empathy
relevant. He's
don't
president right
understand
now.
how people that don't agree with them on politics think because they completely lack empathy for anyone outside of their bubble. And they think keep bringing this up that it's a good thing, but the general public has moved on. They don't give a
You
shit.
can say that
Or
we lack
maybe-
empathy, but you can't even understand why we keep bringing it up. You think we're some sort of like, we got to smear Trump and make sure he looks bad. It's like, no, we're really upset that the current president tried to steal and has refused to admit that he lost, and he might do it again.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with you, and you're only upset because he has an R in front of his name.
Let me.
No,
let me,
I was
okay,
saying he tried to steal it.
What's a
Like, I would
comparable
not
example
support
of
Joe
this?
Biden if he did this. I would
That's
think
the
this
point.
is
What's a
disqualifying.
comparable
Joe,
example of
if
this?
Joe
He
Biden did
followed
the
a-
exact same thing, I'd be-
He followed
I'd be
the Stacey
stuck in
Abrams
the
model,
box.
and nobody cares that Stacey
What's the
Abrams is still in the
Stacey-
party.
What is the Stacey Abrams model? What are you referring to? when
I
you
would
say
like
that?
to
Lose an
know that as
election,
well.
lose an election with zero proof, say the election was stolen from you, and then take legal action to try to overturn the results of an election.
Do you think
Illegal
our problem
action,
is taking legal action to challenge the election? Is that the problem that Mia Soypill and Bones illustrated?
No, I think
Honestly,
you
that's
have a
the part that's
Okay, so it's
misunderstanding.
not the same.
It isn't because you guys misunderstand what the
Did
president's
Stacey
abilities
have-
are.
Did Stacey Abrams, did she have any false electors?
No.
Are you genuinely
Were there any
asserting that it's-
prosecutions with anyone she dictated to question the election results?
No.
Are you genuinely asserting that it's the right of the president to unilaterally change the results of the state's elections?
No.
Okay,
I've already laid this out.
isn't
I said he
isn't
can
an official
interpret laws in the way he sees fit. A
Can he
president
interpret
read a
laws
law.
to say anything he wants ever?
He can try to, and then the courts are there to check that. Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
and
so
then
would
an
you be
attempt
okay
for
if
Exactly
Donald
what
Donald
they're there
Trump.
for. This is
I
basic
I
101
declare I'm
government,
the
guys.
king. Donald Trump says I declare I'm the king tomorrow, and the Supreme Court, because they're a majority Trump picks, say, okay, that's cool. Would you be okay with that? Not is it legal?
If all of those silly things were to happen, which is impossible under our system,
Okay,
no, I
cool.
wouldn't say that. But that's not
Okay,
how
you
it
wouldn't be
actually
okay
happens
with
or
it.
works. Yeah.
What if the president nuked Chicago?
Oh my
Yeah.
god,
That's all this is. You guys don't
Hey,
understand
okay,
the novel
That's
legal
not the
theory.
craziest thing that's been alleged
You-
so far,
well,
honestly.
Do you guys
Well,
need me to
hold on.
explain novel legal theory to you again? Because
No, I
bring
don't.
up
I
things
don't
that are
want you to do
legal.
that.
Novel legal
Hold on,
theory.
hold on.
Break
No,
the
please,
law.
please, no.
I-
Okay,
do
let
you
me.
want me to
Bring up
talk
things
to you?
that are
Hold on,
illegal.
hold
Is
on,
not
I-
a novel legal theory.
But I think there's something
Novel
interesting.
legal theory. Break the Electoral Count Act, please. That's my novel.
They had to change the Electoral Count Act after this
Hold on.
happened.
Let me just get a little order here. I do want to come back to something y'all just said, right? Soypill, you mentioned, okay, this is the message y'all are getting. Maybe it's our fault we're not getting a message. And Tyler's been arguing kind of adamantly here that the lack of empathy, the lack of understanding. I think that might be a big issue here. Like the crosswire, the talking past each other in some regard, right? I maybe fall in this category because it's like, my team and the alternative was just so much worse. I kind of don't give a shit, right? Although I do think it's ticky-tack bullshit and it's not any worse than any of the other stuff that's happened. Like, if it was an actual coup, I would definitely be against it, right? If he'd pulled in with the military and said no, and I'd seen something like that, I didn't see anything to that level, so I'm not convinced. I think this is all, pretty ticky-tack personally.
Well, wait,
However,
Gibbs,
but
this is a
hold
good
on,
point.
but hold
Can
on.
I stop you? Because that's a good point. I really need to ask you this then. So you said it would change your mind if he drove up with tanks. And why would driving up with tanks change it, right? Because that's a specific physical force that he is
Right.
using to take over, right?
He doesn't have
So
that right as
why
president.
is that different?
He doesn't have
Insofar
that right
as
as president.
Well,
why,
I will
why is
tell-
that different?
I will
why is
tell
that
you why.
different than if he tries to do it through ways that don't require physical force, but require people to go and lie and subvert and change the votes of people. Why would that be different to you?
I will tell you why. Well, one, and I'm not going to do the thing that Tyler was doing on Twitter, where he's arguing about like specific legal definition that are Encyclopedia Britannica. However, that being said, I am about to do that a little bit. I think a coup is a very specific thing. It's a coup d'etat, right? Like you envision Napoleon walking in and with the troops after he runs out and they all come in there and they hold everybody at gunpoint. That's a coup. Like you imagine like an armed junta taking over, right? And so I can see whenever we talk about this novel legal theory and where the concern is, and I think you have a valid concern, right? And I think that's something that we need to let the courts play out and they decide, as opposed to like y'all throwing this fit saying it's a coup, it's a coup, it's a coup, because I think the messaging y'all are having is not working with the public, right?
Sure. Right, because like insurrection doesn't like reflect like what Sadie was saying. Like if you think insurrection, you don't think people walking in the lines inside the White House Capitol or in the Capitol, right? Like it's like, well, that doesn't look like people throwing out the people or guillotine. Well, to be fair, they did have the guillotine, but they didn't use it on anyone, right? I understand that. I'm very sympathetic to that argument, and that's why I try to like avoid the whole thing of coup, insurrection, like the specific wording. The problem we have is he tried to subvert the will of the people by saying, here's some false electors, just pick these ones. I know that's not the way these states voted, and that is our issue.
Well, let me just take a little step further. So a big portion of my audience is local people, right? Like in my town, right? So I live in San Antonio. I go and talk to these people, and they all are mostly center left for the most part. There's some things that right on, but generally they're center left. Mm-hmm. And so I go talk to these people, and I will bring up January 6th to them to see kind of what their responses are. And if they're like really far left and they're really online, their responses are similar to what y'all have been giving me. However, the normal person's like, oh yeah, something at the Capitol, but that's it, and you're like,
right. That's why I wanted to talk about the elections thing. Most people don't know about this.
Yeah, they don't
right?
give a shit. It's too complicated.
I didn't even know about this until a couple months ago.
It's not that they don't give a shit. It's that no one knows how our electoral accounting system works. Like the idea of trying to usurp the electoral college system, when I would bet that like 90% of the electorate doesn't know what an electoral college vote is. I mean, that's probably
or like what an elector is, right? Like let's say this: if there were videos of Trump employees, let's say people wearing MAGA hats, stuffing ballot boxes in counties, it would be very obvious to most people what that is, right?
Like in Connecticut, like the ones they have in Connecticut with the judge and the mayor.
We can get into whatever that is later. The point is, this is a very obvious thing you can see on camera. It's like, okay, this person is stealing, they're cheating, right? The difference is people don't understand electors. I myself didn't even know about this elector scheme until a couple months later because it took a while to like get it all onto the same page. And you see, not only did this big, riot happen where people were running in, but to be clear, it's not like all these people went in there like, yep, as soon as we take over the Capitol, the election's gonna no, they were protesting. It got out of hand. We could talk about them like, encouraging it, whether or not it was trying to be used to pressure Mike Pence. But the point is the specific scheme to steal the elector vote, to say, hey, here are all these electors that are endorsed by the governor that go and choose the president, and those people are chosen by the will of the people, the vote. He tried to pick different ones, which is essentially stuffing the ballot box. That's the issue we have. And it's very hard to explain that to people because, for one, most people don't know, but also it's like 3 degrees of separation from you actually voting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, because I think that's a big problem, right? Is the messaging with aspect of this, and it comes off. I think y'all are the Dems, especially online, y'all are shooting yourselves in the foot with this because it seems like the world has moved on. Even if this was a relevant thing that y'all should learn from, and if y'all get back in power, change. And once again, I don't necessarily agree. The idea that we can't talk about anything else, and we should stop everything anytime any conversation's had to talk about this seems like a negative plan. Do you not disagree?
Well, sort of like Gibbs. Let's use another example. Let's make it even worse. All right, your best friend raped your wife at the wedding, and 5 years later, he's like, dude, just move on, bro. Just move on. It's been 5 years. Look, everyone else is cool with Derek. You have this big issue, and it's like, no, I don't really trust Derek. I don't like him around because of the thing he did to my wife. Do you not understand? You can't just let this go just because a bunch of people are saying it doesn't matter.
A better example would be if it's 10 years down the road and your wife is still bringing up that, Derek raped her and you're over here divorced already and you got someone new in place. And it's your first wife still bitching about this.
No, it's not
that's what it
new
seems
in place. Trump's president.
Yeah, we had Biden in between them, and now you're on your second.
Derek's
second
still
round.
Your best friend. It's like, hey, why are you still friends with Derek? He raped me, and you're like, well, what? It's been 10 years. All the boys are cool with it, dude.
4 years.
In terms of election strategy, Gibbs is 100% right here, according to the Fox News exit poll in my notes. almost half the people that voted on State of Democracy were voting against Democrats for their use of lawfare against Donald Trump. So almost as many people
is probably talking about the 34 felony count, like forgery thing with Cohen, right? This is not January 6th.
January 6th. Then
I'm telling you that in terms of what voters actually do when they're looking at
if
these
every
situations,
voter, if the polling suggested that we should just say, well, no one cares, so don't talk about it, I'm not going to drop my principle on whether or not we should keep a president who doesn't agree with democracy just because a bunch of people are cool with it. That's not how my principles work. I'm going to advocate that it matters. Now, if you're saying the messaging might be different, yeah, I think the fact that we pressed it was a coup, it was an insurrection, specifically talking about this thing, which even I, when it happened, was like, well, I don't know if he really did that on purpose. It's kind of hard to see. Yeah, that did hurt the fact that once the facts came out, it's harder to explain, one, because of its electors, but two, because you've been pressing the insurrection thing specifically on the riot to explain that, oh no, he did try to subvert the democratic process.
Elected then, besides anti-Trump narratives, if the main message you're pushing against Trump is January 6th and the voters already shown
the main message, I'm saying there's a reason we're still talking about it. It should never not be in a conversation about it.
I'm not saying that's the main message. Hold on. If what you're pushing online, I didn't get to finish my statement. If what you're pushing online, the main message online that you're using is January 6th, what do you actually use to get elected? Because almost every major Democrat stance, from supporting violent people here illegally, supporting men and women's sports, declaring two genders, closing the borders for illegal.
Can we not turn this into a democratic policy?
But that's why. That's my argument. Is the Democrats have nothing to run on. They are not serious to govern. All these things that Democrats stand for right now are extremely unpopular, and the only hope that they have right now to band their coalition together is Trump is worse than us, and that's it.
Forgive me for not being able to really reconcile the fact that half of the country are fundamentally illiberal and just don't give a fuck about a real attempt on our democracy. I mean, it's really hard to reconcile.
Which one?
I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
I don't know. Removing the president from the ballot with no due process and deeming him a federal criminal without a trial be interfering in interfering? That happened. That happened in the Supreme Court, in the Colorado Supreme Court.
It did happen. It got overruled.
One at a time.
Yes, it got overruled. It got overruled after 8 states attempted to do it. That's infringing democracy. January 6th.
Legal theory is fine.
Wait. So Trump's January 6th actions didn't result in anything. They got overruled. So what's the problem, right?
The problem is that I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote the judge or any of the petitioners in Anderson v. Griswold to be the next fucking president of the United States. That's the difference.
Oh,
no, that's not the difference. The difference is if you are to believe that the factual truth is this man tried to steal the election, and these people try to say, hey, based on the fact that this person committed what we could deem as treason, we believe that this should go to the Supreme Court, that we should remove this man because he's ineligible to be president. And then they say, no, I don't think that's the way it works. How is that trying to steal an election?
They declared him a federal criminal without a trial. They just decreed he was a federal criminal and then attempted to remove him from the ballot. The only reason it went to the Supreme Court is because another party challenged it.
Are they alleging to this day that he should, that they're going to take him off the thing and they're going to try it again?
No, the Supreme Court slapped that down. There are a lot of judges right now.
So they followed the Supreme Court precedent that it was not okay.
Yes, yeah, like Trump followed the rule of law when he
Trump's conceded
stepped down. Yes, he conceded the election on January 7th. On January 7th, he
says he hasn't lost.
On January 7th, he said we are focused on a peaceful transition of power, and then stepped down exactly and then stepped down exactly.
You got me. Sorry about that one. I'll try.
That's what you guys are arguing for Colorado. Colorado tried to illegally remove him from the ballot, but you're saying it's not a big deal because it never happened. But this is a big deal, even though it didn't happen. You guys you're giving me cognitive dissonance here. You're saying Colorado wasn't a big deal because it didn't happen.
Do you think that the argument of deeming somebody an insurrection to remove somebody under Article 3 of the 14th Amendment, which bars insurrectionists from office, is the same as saying, actually, I think that the fate of the election lies in the vice president and the vice president alone?
No, I don't. I think that a state court usurping federal power is the problem. No matter what law they picked, if they don't have jurisdiction to do it, they deem somebody a federal criminal without a trial and then try to remove them from the ballot. That's the problem.
Do you think that those two claims are equally legally sound?
No, it doesn't. They don't have to be the exact equivalent. If you're against the thing, you should be against it no matter who's doing it. Not, he's got an R in front of his name and ran for president, so it's cool. It's bad then, but when they try to do it 100 times over, it's not that big of a deal. Just look past it.
Well,
again,
tell them
every
it's
single
only
example
against Republicans.
you said 100 times over, but none of this is even remotely close to what
Doesn't
Donald
have to
Trump
be.
did.
It doesn't have to be. It's the
does.
same. It's the same fucking thing. You're just
No, it's
arguing
not, because
scale.
one is breaking
saying
the
'cause
law
this-
and saying it's okay to break the law because I'm president, and the other is the way that we interpret the 14th Amendment is that this person shouldn't be on the ballot. And then if the Supreme Court says no, I don't think that's how that works, they
If
okay,
Trump
we'll put
broke
him
the
back
law,
on the
Well,
where
ballot.
are his-
Those are
where
very
are his
Well, let me
convictions?
let me
Where are
ask-
his convictions?
Let me ask this.
Where are his
They got-
convictions
they got-
for January
They
6th?
got shot
His
back
conviction?
down for
Yeah,
they
January
got
6th
shot back
conviction.
down after the immunity ruling.
Yeah. Oh, which means he had the authority
Yeah.
to do it. Like I said,
No, that means that he can't be criminally tried for it.
he can be criminally
Well,
tried outside of
let
office.
me-
for unlawful
let me-
acts. That's not what the immunity
let
ruling
me-
says.
hold on, well, let me frame-
how the president can't be criminally charged for anything that's quote unquote.
Well,
That's not what. That's not what the Supreme Court ruling says. You guys are lying or extremely
let me-
mistaken.
Supreme Court
So-
ruling has nothing to say on whether or not
Well,
he did
okay,
actually
well, so-
try
so-
to get
so-
the vice president to choose the winner of the election. By the
Well,
way,
so-
Supreme
have
Court
his
had nothing
official
to litigate
action.
on that.
So
Interpreting a law is your official action as president.
so
Yeah, true. He should interpret the law to say that all Democrats can't vote. That
Well,
should be the
okay,
next
hold on,
interpretation
all
of the
right,
law. I think that'd be cute.
let me
Ooh.
Well, he was
Let-
trying to say that
New
trans
legal-
people can't have guns, so
Well,
we might get another one of those.
yeah, let me
There's all sorts of laws against mentally impaired people not Kevin.
All right, cool. Hold on. Let me just move a bit. We're not going down the trans for guns debate today. We're gonna stick to what we're at. So I just got a message, and I think that this kind of illustrates the confusion, right? So we're talking about the fake electorate, right? That's what I'm talking about. Y'all are making out, and they want to know what's the fundamental difference. Yes, there's a legal system here on the one side that we know and everything, and I guess on the federal side with the legal electors and what a legal elector is and all that good jazz. But on the other side, they're asking is how is that any fundamentally different than if they had cast their vote for Biden in the primary and then he swapped out last minute for a different candidate with no, a general, voting by the people that voted for him? Is the only difference one that it's because they're already in the election, the main election, and it's still under just under party laws, or is it or is there a real problem with that as well? Because they seem to sit very similar to a lot of people.
Well, Gibbs, the DNC is fundamentally undemocratic. I think they don't even have to honor the results of the primary. And if you want to say that sucks, right? Like they're allowed to pick whoever. Yeah, Tyler, you're nodding head. That's true, right? They can pick whoever the fuck they want, right? Yeah. So that sucks. I don't love that because you can talk about. I mean, there were reforms after the super delegates thing with Bernie in 2016, where it seemed like there was foot on the scale sort of thing. The difference is right now it's not the DNC illegally trying to say, well, we know that all these people picked Joe Biden, but we're going to take all their votes and just swap them to Kamala Harris. The difference is they're allowed to pick whoever they want. That's already the established rule. And we can actually go through and try to reform that if we want and not go through and say, well, we're just going to shift all these votes to someone completely different. And then when pressed about it, lie about it, and then lie about it for 4 more years later and then say, oh, but you can trust me to pick who you pick next time. That's the difference.
Well, it's also not even just the legal argument. It's also Trump tried to interfere with already cast ballots in the 2024 election. You just don't vote for Kamala Harris. Democratic voters in 2020 in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in all of these 7 targeted states didn't have the right to not vote for Donald Trump, given that his legal interpretation of the legal theory was correct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see an analogous between the two either, Gibbs. Other than they gave the Democrats a credibility issue going into the election. Other than that, I don't see how it's analogous.
Look, Gibbs, the other problem is I can empathize. I have friends who say, you're telling me that Donald Trump is a fascist and he's doing these unprecedented power grabs. However, I think the Democratic Party, or even Trump when he was in power, was fascist when they had COVID lockdowns or when they had, some sort of vaccine mandates. And so the problem is that anyone who's scrambling to be upset by any sort of thing will take whatever they can, not because it is equivalent, not because it is justified, but say, well, you did this slight thing to me, and that is why anything going into the future is okay. And how do you reach someone like that if they're just going to take whatever slight, and unless the Democrats were perfect and have never done anything even close to being interpreted as bad faith, they're always going to pick and choose something that justifies their belief. So there's no way you can explain that to them. They're always going to be able to have something that's well, you did it, so it's okay that I do it.
That's unilateral disarmament, though. If one side stops doing that while the other side's still doing it, they have a leg up.
Right, because you think they're equivalent, but they're not.
Yeah.
But
you see ballot
you're never
harvesting
going to
in California, and then you see ballot harvesting the next election in North Carolina under Republican.
I don't have a problem
later,
with ballot harvesting.
I know, but you just when one does the tactic, the other side picks it up.
But one is ballot harvesting on both sides, and one is Democrats have never tried to forge electors so that they could pick different ones. Now, in 1960, which they tried to use as the precedent for why this was okay, there was an ongoing recount. So all the governors agreed in Hawaii, hey, we don't know who's actually going to win this, so we do have to have electors for both. And once that recount finished and Kennedy was determined to be the winner, they didn't not certify them from the governors. They say, yep, the Kennedy ones are the correct ones, and there was no issues. And that's why that trying to use that as well, it was a different legal interpretation. It's like, no, this is patently false and not the same situation.
Those are state laws. State laws are how you certify your electors, not a federal law. We're talking about federal versus state. So if these people were charged
so
at the state level,
saying,
has nothing to do
hey,
with the Electoral Count
you
Act.
forged these things. This is completely illegal. They broke the law. He's violating the law to do it, to steal the election. Right?
That has nothing to do with the Electoral Count Act, though.
I'm not saying that part yet.
Yeah, well, that's what happened after the Civil War. That's what happened after the Civil War.
These electors right here, these are our electors. And then Trump sends in 7 of his own electors, said, no, these are the actual electors. And the states are saying, no, the electors that we sent are the real ones. And Trump didn't follow the law. Are you saying that, are you saying that's equivalent to the 1960 shit?
No, there's some analogous that carries over, but it's not a one-to-one. There's never a one-to-one situation.
So the disanalogous part about it is that one is legal, the one in Hawaii, and the 7 from Trump.
I think only 4 states found illegal activity. 3 states didn't, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that number.
Okay, so sorry, then based off of that 4.
That might be wrong.
No. 4 states prosecuted. 3 of them might not have. That doesn't mean it wasn't illegal. In the same way, immunity doesn't mean you didn't commit a crime. It means you can't be charged for it.
I don't know enough about each particular state's electoral laws to tell you either way. It's just, 4 states prosecuted only. And I think only 2 of them ended up charging people, convicting them, I mean. So, but yeah, no, that's neither here or there. I really think that the reason this is brought up, though, is because they're trying to evade from the fact that the Democratic Party has nothing else to run on right now.
Tyler, do you think that's why I bring it up?
No. I think it's no.
What about anybody else?
Could you extrapolate and think that maybe there are just as many people that care as much as I do?
No, because morally,
I agree with you. Derailing thing, dude. It'd be different if this conversation and the things you're saying, Soy, absolutely gave me a lot. And I want to concede on a point earlier when I did bring up, switching out Joe Biden for Kamala Harris. You're right. There is nothing illegal about it. It's just we're the Protect Democracy Party, and to the right, it felt like it was subverted. It was very subversive. Yeah. Very subversive of your own party to do something of your party to do this to you guys. So it is a little bit of a hypocritical thing. You know what I mean? You have given me a lot of things to think about. There's definitely things that I'm going to go back and check on. But ultimately, our point is we can't have a conversation about illegal immigration without devolving into January 6th.
That's the thing is, I think
we can't have a conversation about tariffs. But it's not happening.
Hold on. I think that's
the issue is,
I don't know.
Ultimately, you're allowed to have concerns about all of those policies and the way that Donald Trump is addressing them. But I don't think that the January 6th stuff comes out of nowhere, in every conversation. I think it's usually talking about, and Gibbs mentioned this, panels on Trump's performance. And so it will, and I will admit to this, it will ultimately be the fallback to anyone if they feel trapped in a corner of, hey, Trump did this good and this good. What do you have to say about that? Well, he did the January 6th thing. They might use that as the backstop as, yeah, that's a good point. You shouldn't trust him. But that doesn't change the fact that we're talking about the border policy and how Democrats handle it versus Trump does. And I'm sympathetic to that. It shouldn't be a whataboutism derailment, but it should absolutely not be irrelevant for you. That's all I'm saying.
Actually, I think that is a problem, right? So when we're sitting here talking about this, say we're doing a panel, right? And we're talking about, let's just say, one of my favorites, we're going to talk about border security and immigration, right? And let's just pretend we're pre-Trump, we're in Biden era. And I'm over here, and I'm hooping and hollering about, Texas enforcing the border, and then the Biden trying to stop it in the Supreme Court, and they got all this, and I'm yelling, right? And then we have all this legal precedent that goes forward. We have the case, and the Supreme Court decides one way, and, all that goes forward. And nobody has a problem with the Supreme Court deciding then. No one had a problem with how it played out over time, even though it was dodgy legal precedent from both sides kind of thing, right? Were we going to get another South Carolina nullification crisis? All these things could have led from this, right? And so, not a problem. Okay, and then we all talk about policy implications. Great. Then January 6th happens, and then now we're talking about something. And I'm like, okay, we're talking about border policy now. We're talking about change asylum law. We're talking about the border secure. Or we're going to do mass deportation. And I'll be like, well, yes, we should do it for XYZ reason or yada yada. And we're talking about current actual policy, and they go, well, none of this matters. And it's kind of like you're saying that, yeah, it's the deflection because we can't trust none of it because this guy did the false electors thing or this guy did January 6th. So he's an illegitimate president and no policy is a real thing. How do you have a conversation and how do you be taken seriously as like a panelist or as like a party going forward if your only substantive argument to a policy debate is, well, this should be illegitimate because of January 6th?
I agree. If that is the only argument people are bringing up, I think that's very bad argumentation. However, I can understand that they would bring it up if you're talking about Trump honoring XYZ law. And it's like, well, how can you make sure that he's actually going to honor that law? Or this law will restrict him from doing the worst things that you're implying, when then you can bring up, well, he didn't do that for January 6th. And he still to this day thinks that he's in the right. So how could we trust him on violating that law or keeping within that law? That would be the only good reason to bring it up. But I agree. If they're just bringing it up to deflect away from a legitimate concern about the border and what we should do about it, yeah, that's a bad argument for sure.
Yeah, well, but the follow up with that, right? Like even within the left, right? You'll talk about like I hear systemic racism, I hear systemic problems all the time, right? This is the thing that the left, and when I say the left, I mean like liberals, leftists, all of them improve. I know y'all hate that, but like when I see this, I see, we talk about the system all the time. And then sometimes the right also talks about, the system, it's against us, it's all these people. And then you get like somebody like Trump or Bernie, and they're populist, they come in, they want to do a world of change. And they come in, and they're doing stuff, and well, to do that, you have to do new legal theory, and you have to do, like, press the onto the envelope. And as soon as we do something like that, well, the system reacts, and suddenly all these people that are preaching about system bad are now the biggest, like, pro-system people, and they're like, well, our style where we switched out Biden, yeah, it's not democratic, we don't have to be democratic, but it seems like it's a bait and switch, just like y'all are arguing over here, and y'all are arguing from like the veil of like legal security, and I don't think that floats with like a lot of like the normie. They just see both being done, and they're like, well, that's actually the same thing, even if one side's rigged the system with like unfair laws to their advantage, like counting illegals would be one side, or like like in the census or something like that. They would argue that, or I like they got an Illinois redistrict. Why wouldn't Texas redistrict that? Like when then you see these tit for tats, and it's just like it seems just like hypocrisy to the normie, and I think that's kind of like what I'm saying. I don't understand why people don't see that.
I'm sympathetic to this too, Gibbs, but the problem is when people don't have all the facts in front of them, you can make it sound a lot worse than it is, and it's really easy to make something equivalent when it's not. For example, let's take the redistricting. Texas is going to redistrict not during a census year, in the middle of a census decade, right? Which is unprecedented. It's like, wait, well, maybe it's happened before, but the point is, it's not really what you're supposed to do. Is like, I'm going to get more seats like 5 years before we're actually going to redo the census. So this is coming down from top down too. This is the people in Texas doing it, the legislator. Now, California responds by saying, hey, people in my country, I'm going to put this on the ballot. And if you vote and ask me to do this, I will try to retaliate to it. But if you all say no, if you're not cool with gerrymandering, I won't do it. Now, these two things are viewed as equal when I don't think they are. One is a referendum from the people, and the other is, hey, the Texas, governor or the Texas legislator is just going to do it when they're not supposed to.
Wait, but that's not what happened in Texas. Texas,
didn't a federal judge tell them to redistrict?
Yeah, a federal judge struck down Texas' thing, and Texas had to do it. And they just took
it
down.
Maybe I totally missed it.
Yeah, and then so Texas was like, fine, okay, we'll do it this way. Yeah, and so they redid it. And it was like they walked into a trap. It was like Texas, like, okay, well, if we have to redo it, it's going to be worse for y'all.
Not only that, if the governor was elected by the people, his will is by proxy the will of the people, correct?
Oh, should Gavin Newsom just not ask about putting it?
I mean, it's good that he did, but
well, no, he should have run the measure.
There's not much juice left to squeeze in Democrat states for redistricting, and I think Wall Street Journal did a study and showed Republicans are going to benefit like 10 seats if all states redistrict to that level.
Yeah, so that's just empirically true. If everyone redistricts, I think Republicans win for sure. The point is, when I see these two things, I don't view them as equivalent as, all right, half of the people that are elected in this Texas state, once they're saying, hey, you have to redistrict, are the Democratic legislators who are saying, well, we're not okay with this, and our constituents aren't okay with this, and they're like, well, we're going to do it in a way that like you don't get to say with this. That's how the whole like they're going to leave, and they protested, but then they came back, blah 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 blah. Like versus, hey, let's put it to a vote for the people. It's like these two things aren't equivalent. In the same way, like Donald Trump saying, I'm going to subvert Congress spending isn't equivalent to we had COVID lockdowns, that were Trump and Biden, but both of these things can be equivocated in your brain. Like, well, you did it, so I did it, so you did it, so I did it. if no one's going to listen to the nuance of like when you explain, which to be fair, I do appreciate, Sadie, that you said I will, take some of these things and look at that. Like, it's hard to reach these people, and if you're just screaming Gen 6, Gen 6, Gen 6, they're never going to listen to you, especially because that's not how you get to them. But it doesn't mean you should drop it, and I don't think that means that you should not try to reach these people. I just think screaming it as an argument, or just saying Donald Trump is illegitimate on your fucking party platform thing, it's not going to work. I agree with that. Clearly, it doesn't. Tyler has brought up the polling. It's not going to work like that. But I think you can legitimately reach out to these people who don't understand this elector thing and say, oh, yeah, I do have an issue with that. That shouldn't be done that way. And if you want to draw comparisons to the Colorado thing or to the any other thing, it's like, yeah, we can talk about why those things aren't the same, but just screaming about it isn't going to convince anyone. So
I think I made some headway on
Also,
that as
wait,
well.
to re-up
Morally,
on
I
the
agree with you
Texas
guys.
redistricting lawsuit. The lawsuit was filed because it diluted Black and Latino voters.
Right.
And added more districts up. Or not added more districts, but it diluted the vote in certain districts, and effectively it was racist. Like that's what.
Yeah, that's what the
about to be
argument
slapped
was.
down.
It was
That's
just
about to be
racially
slapped.
No,
Yeah,
that's what caused this to happen in the first place. And Abbott said, "Okay,
This
cool."
went all the
And
way
then,
up.
and then so Abbott set a new map, and the new map is what's being officially done.
Yeah. Racial gerrymandering is mandatory.
The racial gerrymandering came before the Texas redistricting.
But that might get struck down. That's about to go to the Supreme Court, I think, this week.
No.
To tie it back, though,
Anyway,
I think it is. I think it is valuable to point out the events of January 6th, simply because there's a lot of well, first of all, for all the reasons I said in my opening, but also because there's a lot of like very novel like civics questions in this plot that a lot of Americans don't understand. I think it's very, very possible that if you were to actually walk any given Republican voter through what happened with the electors plot and didn't even mention anything at the Capitol, I think they would have a very, very hard time reconciling with most of the details of it. So I think there is value in bringing it up to people, just because not a lot of people know. I mean, like, a lot of people in this circle know, because on panels, like you said, like, you're asked to answer for it every time you're on a panel. But yeah, there's absolutely value in bringing it up, especially since, like, if we're saying like, oh yeah, one of my values is not violating the DOJ, that's why or not weaponizing the DOJ, that's why I voted for Trump. You can go like, okay, well, didn't he like try to make the attorney general lie for him to the states? Or there's a billion different things that I can tie back to. So I understand tying back to certain particular things, but I also agree that a lot of people on the left just aren't great at making that tie back in general. So it looks like a deflection.
Yeah, and I do want to concede, now having read it, like, I did not know this was started by that lawsuit. That's a total failure on my part. So
yeah, so I just want to go back to the changes to the Electoral Count Act too, because I saw a lot of hands when I brought that up. I just linked that in the chat. The changes that they did, they revised the bill to make it so that the federal Congress now has to respect the state's certified electors. That was never part of the law prior. So that part of it that you're saying Trump violated was never actually part of the law. They just added that to it in 2021 to 2022. As well, the vice president during a joint session shall be mistrial in nature if he doesn't read out the right one. So
yeah, it also changed the amount of what was it? The amount of, I think it was the amount of representatives necessary to object to electors. So yeah, that piece of legislation did a lot of things, but the two problems are that, one, that was mainly meant to just address the like the phone calls during the actual like proceeding, trying to get like a lot of objections or like trying to get the Congress people to play a role. But realistically, I mean, like, a change to the law that they were asking to violate isn't actually going to do anything. Like, if they were saying, hey, we need to violate the Electoral Count Act to prevent diverting onto Congress for debate on these electors, so the vice president can just unilaterally certify it, but we need to violate the Electoral Count Act because that's a constitutional right that the vice president has. Wouldn't matter how much you reform that piece of legislation at all if the idea was to break it.
I'm wondering how they violated it if they never had to take into account the rightful electors. If they never had to take them into account,
why did they make people forge documents to appear to be electors?
Well, because the state
why not just say right? But why not just say, you know what? I don't want to count these electors
because they have to be
because it's not in the ECA.
Well, that happened after the 1800. In the 1800s.
The reason it was a violation of the ECA was because Eastman wanted to have Mike Pence just start reading off the electors instead of actually giving Congress any room to object to them. He just said, make the unilateral decision to read them all off, decertify Biden's, and certify Trump's.
That's one of his suggestions. But if you read through the Eastman memo, he says if he doesn't do that, he can go this route. If he doesn't do that, he can go this route.
If he doesn't go all this way,
that was in the second Eastman memo. The reason, so The first Eastman memo was the unilateral thing. Donald Trump said in private communications, I don't know if you want to trust this, but said that he prefers that way. But there was also a thing where it's like, okay, we don't need to pass it on to a contingent or to decertify electors and pass it on to a contingent election. That would still suffer for the same reason. You're decertifying them unilaterally, not passing on to Congress. And then for the thing to put the pause on certification, and basically just wait. I'm pretty sure that there's like specific dates or particular dates within the Electoral Count Act, so it would have to be certified on January 6th.
And just to be clear, I agree with you three morally. I don't think anything illegal happened. I just agree with you morally. I just think that state of the democracy isn't one of the top 5 things people vote on. There's other issues. And to boil it down to this is just kind of, I don't know.
I probably agree that it's not an election winning issue, but it's a super, super important issue to me that it feels like my democracy is being like rotted from the inside out. Like, I don't know.
You can see like, I don't like that Trump tried to steal the election, but I think it's legal and I don't want to talk about it. But you do have a problem with it.
I just think it's a loser topic to bring up if you guys are trying to win elections.
But is that
you do
your
think it's a
only
problem,
real
though, right?
contention?
That's why we debate politics online, isn't it? Is to like try to sway people to our side. That's why a lot of streamers go out and get people voter register.
Well, also too, I would hope it's also to try and increase the factual reporting on particular issues, right? To make sure that people have the correct facts on a particular issue. That's part of it as well.
Yeah, but the underlying intent is to expand your political narrative against the other side's political narrative. And I think
I just want to clarify. So, for example, let's say that Donald Trump was, legally got away with committing some sort of like sexual assault, maybe per se. Hypothetically, he did this, and you would have a problem with it. But if you saw the polling was against like talking about this, you would say, yes, this is really bad. I just don't think we should talk about it. That's kind of where we're at with the.
I mean, maybe if it's individual, it's on topic, and again, as Ringold said, as Trump keeps bringing it up over and over, then maybe yeah. But at the same time, like it's a losing issue. I feel like you're being. It's like we do grids debates, and I judge them. I'll see people, Gibbs especially is good at this. He will bait people into a conversation that even if they win the conversation, nobody gives a shit, and he wins the overall debate because of it. And that's kind of what I see here is like January 6th being brought up is like people just like, oh, this again? We already talked about this for 5 years. We've already voted on this in an election. And right now Trump's popularity is higher than it's ever been. People don't care about this shit. Like, it's just a loser message. There are instances where it can be brought up, absolutely. And I agree with you morally. I don't like what his intent was behind it. I just don't think he violated any laws in doing it.
I mean, wouldn't you think that like the intent to actually steal the election is like bad enough, even if it wasn't technically illegal?
I don't see steal the election is the framing you're giving, because in his mind, he won the election. There was something fraudulent going on, and we can't prove that in his head he thinks otherwise.
We don't need to know what he thought. The point is he is not willing to accept whether, like, first of all, it wasn't stolen based on all the facts we know. So he's not willing to accept the reality of the situation. So why would we trust him to do it again, regardless of whether or not he's going to try to steal it legally or not?
Let me frame.
I stand by the framing that I gave, because I mean it was like whether or not he thinks it was legitimate or not, he was actually trying to change the electors' results. So I mean, like whether or not it was a valid stealing, whether or not it was like moral shoplifting, I don't know. But I mean, it was an attempt to steal the election.
Let me frame it as.
Mentioned he was willing to lie even after being corrected several dozen times on this. Like he had the intent of changing the outcome of the election. Regardless of whether the facts supported.
Oh, okay. So let me just frame this from the point of view of two different like groups of normies that I've interacted with, and one is like middle of the pack, one's like center right? And their argument is they're barely political. They like their soap operas and their sports, and they like the normie shit, right? And when they're sitting here going, okay, they finally got motivated enough to vote whether it was for Biden or for Trump because politics is in the news and you can't get away from it. It's affecting their day-to-day life, right? And one group, they're like the righties, are like, we don't trust the government. There's a system in place. And finally a populist gets in there. And, Trump's even kind of said this a couple of times in his first terms. Why didn't he do some of the shit that he is doing this term? It's like, well, because I had to clean out some of these people before I could and get my people in there before I can even try to do it, because they're going to fight me tooth and nail at every single level, whether it's the local level, the middle level, the highest level, right? And he's kind of alluded that a few times, right? And I want to get my agenda pushed, all right? So you have these guys going, well, I want my agenda pushed. And at the time, Trump had only had his first half of his presidency in there. And he's saying there's a system working against him. Now, if you're a populist and you get in the office and there really is some sort of system that's like a deep state. Now, I know that's a conspiracy theory level working against you. I mean, how are you going to change the system? And on the righties, center righties argument that are normies, they're like, okay, this is how you would do it. Now then you have the other group, this like group of normies that's kind of in the middle of the road. They're going, well, we've seen just unprecedented lawfare from both sides, like for the last, I don't know, since Bush Gore, right? I want to go back that far, right? And they're going, both sides are doing crazy shit. We just saw like this with Trump, and then now they've seen with Biden, being replaced and being lied about for all the years. They're going, okay, I want to talk about issues, and people are still going, we want to educate, and it's just like, if there really is some sort of corrupt core, what is like changing the system with like a new party person look like if it's not with Trump? How do you tell these people they're wrong, or like in a convincing way, or or not? Or do you
let's take the
them?
example we just had, like Sadie. Like we came in here, and I don't think have we been rude to you, Sadie? I would hope not.
No,
and
I
like
don't think so.
you heard some of the things that we brought up and said, you know what? I hadn't heard about that before, which is the biggest issue, right? Like I don't think that.
No. I want to correct that. It's not that I haven't heard of it. It's just that I cannot regurgitate it like you do, and I need to beef up my understanding of it to be able to regurgitate it like you do, because I still think that foundationally we're going to come to a very different point of view about it. But I obviously don't have the ability to rattle off these cases and stuff like you are. So
okay.
I need to look into it.
Maybe I'm wrong here. It sounded to me like you're like, well, I hadn't processed XYZ. If you did truly, and I don't think this is true, I think if I truly laid it out all on paper, because this is a lot of stuff to process, and I'm not trying to be condescending, because like I said, it took me a while to put this out all on like my mind map and be like, okay, this is how we did it here. I think most people wouldn't be okay with that. Now, a fair amount would, but the problem is that like, hey, how do you disseminate this information when it's 4 years old, that people are already poisoned against the topic? But I do think you can have these sorts of conversations. I hope that someone watches this and says, oh, like I didn't even know about this like ECA thing and how it was talked about.
Yeah,
but I
sure.
do need to issue a really quick correction. I apologize for saying I didn't know about the lawsuit. I didn't, but also the way you guys brought it up, I think is really disingenuous. So this was a lawsuit filed under Biden in 2020 about the racist redistricting. Then Trump said, completely irrelevant to this lawsuit, why don't we find ways to take more seats in Texas? They're dictating this to Greg Abbott. Then they brought this lawsuit that was retracted when Trump came into office back, and then said, let's use this as the precedent to redistrict and steal the seats that we were trying to do in the first place, and has nothing to do with this lawsuit. So it is actually fucking scummy and ridiculous, and I believed you for a second, and I apologize for that.
No, I mean, to be fair, it was once again, this is a tick for tack. Just because you get outmaneuvered with the original play doesn't mean that you didn't talk. Like, listen, they started the lawsuit, and under the guise of that lawsuit, they gave them the ammo to use. I mean, you can't retract the bullet once you fire it, Soy. Like,
the lawsuit was about violating.
And then it was brought back
No, but this is exactly it, Gibbs. Right? One,
like
is,
it's y'all's tactic.
You're violating the Civil Rights Act right now by taking this and making Black and Latino voters disproportionately less likely to have a say of this. This is a violation. We want to take this up, and you say, you know what? I don't think so. We're not going to go after that at all. And then Donald Trump comes in and says, well, what if we actually use that to take more seats than we deserve? And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Bring that lawsuit back. The lawsuit that was actually about violating a law. And we're going to use this nefariously to steal seats. These are not the same things.
No, they just interpreted it differently. You put it forward and you said, now we have racially, hold on, now we have racially equal.
Novel legal theory.
No, this isn't even novel. This is the exact what y'all wanted. The Dems filed this lawsuit. They said, oh, underrepresentation. Now we have equal representation in all these districts. And now y'all are crying poo-poo because it backfired. And that's really the bottom line. This is what y'all wanted. And then when they play the game,
it's two districts.
Two very specific ones.
Back to have a proportional representation.
Yeah, exactly. That was the whole crux of it. And it backfired. This is the problem. This is why, I just feel like Trump was a trendsetter, right? And he really changed things. And now it just feels like the Dems
yeah, you're right. He was a trendsetter.
Yeah, and now it just feels like the Dems are just trying to copy Trump. Like Newsom is just like Trump light. That's what it sounds like all the time. I see all these people do that, and or they're just going off the deep end with Madani. And there's no in between because you can't have a conversation. I can't get any policy out of any of the Dems because I don't think there is any policy. I think Tyler might be
All
right
there
about
is.
this.
All
And
there is just extremely unpopular.
the only thing I'm hearing is just like what Jan 6th. And I just like, at what point can we be like,
This
okay,
entire panel's about January 6th.
I know that.
This
Obviously,
panel's
obviously,
about-
We can talk
yeah.
about policy.
But
if
no,
you
but,
want, what
but I
advocate
guess
for.
what I'm asking is like, at
Absolutely.
what point is it going to be after midterms? At what point can we stop with like where January 6th is expected to come up?
When
Like
Trump is not running for office or not part of the electorate or is not part of the person in power, unless Rudy Giuliani or Eastman or any of these other people involved with the scheme are then trying to vie for power, any of these, because they are definitely just as implicated.
Any
Or,
Republican that sided with him,
Cant.
when Lee Zeldin runs for office after Trump leaves office, it's going to get brought up for him too. It's going to get brought up for every single Republican that
I don't think to
sided
the
with
same degree.
No.
I think
Jim Jordan. It
realistically,
already is.
Other
Jordan's
than
a little
Eastman-
more
If
implicated.
themselves
Other
for
than
MAGA,
Eastman,
then no,
Ellis-
this would not be a part of the conversation.
Other than Eastman, Ellis, Giuliani, Trump, I don't know if it's going to come up for anybody else.
It did come up for Lee Zeldin in his New York
no,
mayoral race.
no. Tyler's absolutely right. It's going to come up a lot. Like I literally, you can't even go on Twitter without like, I'll be like, I'll be talking about local election. I'll be like, Corpus Christi is city council shut down the desal plant. What a dumb move by the city council, or what a good move by the city council. And like either one, right? I'll be talking about that, and someone will come in and be like, well, you're a Republican. Why should we care what you're a fascist thinks? Because you were okay with January 6th. And it's like, but we can't even talk about local politics without this coming
my
up.
bad.
Like at what point is it's too much? Like you know what I'm saying? I don't understand. Like how
My
we
bad.
can
I think
argue that it's just an
very
education
random.
thing.
I actually think it's probably fair to discredit Zeldin based off of it because apparently he texted the people the plan for the elector. So I mean, like, yeah, that's actually
Oh, okay. I didn't know
That's
that. That's a little more implicating.
two ideas
Okay,
for discrediting
Gibbs-
the election results.
I mean, it's
I-
going out.
listen,
It's
I don't
coming
know
out
the
to
whole thing,
anybody.
but-
Anybody that
Gibbs-
supports Republican policy now
hey,
is being
babe, yeah.
associated with January 6th.
Well, no,
It's time to reshape
was
the
implicated
election,
in
babe.
spreading the specific plan to steal the election, not, hey, I think this is cool. This is like a very different thing. But Gibbs, to be clear, random Twitter users deflecting your very legitimate concerns about local elections or promotion of local elections is, stupid. But those are random Twitter users versus like, hey, the people that are
Sure.
participating in what we deem as stealing the election are going to run for office again. Those people should absolutely continue to be called out.
I
for
mean,
that.
random Twitter user number like 337, like Pete's Basement or whatever. Yeah, I get that. But whenever it's like political commentators, they're like, oh, well, I make, videos, and then they're coming and do this. Like, that's a problem. Don't you think that, like, you can't even have local political pundits that you argue with in your area because they'll just be like, no, fascist, you voted for Trump, he's January 6th. Like,
Right
and
now-
like, that's like the three go-tos. Like, we can't have a conversation about, like,
Right.
desal. Like, come
Well,
on.
yeah, I can see.
Right
If
now-
that's all they're going to say. That's lame. That's a bit not.
Hold
a good
on.
argument.
Right now in Fulton County, the judge is being fined $10,000 a day because she will not certify 2 Republicans onto the election board because they supported Trump in 2020. Right now in 2025.
One person though, right? I mean, like that's bad, but that is
Fulton
one
County,
person,
it's
right?
Atlanta, Georgia. It's a lot of power. That's a huge city.
I'm not saying it's not a lot of power. I'm saying that like you're saying that this is a narrative that the left is going to keep coming back with against any Republican. I mean, that's
Just Google
it's,
real quick.
one.
I want to
one
say if
person.
this is being represented accurately, which I'm hesitant to say it is, I would actually say that this is not okay. You can't use support of Trump ad infinitum into the future to say, now I will not follow the law of appointing these people. I think that's ridiculous.
Well, you don't think that's
But-
going to happen, Soy? Like, it seems like we're getting
No, it
more
could.
and more
Clearly, if you,
polarized.
like I said, if you're portraying this correctly, this is happening right now, and I wouldn't use the argument that's just one person. I think more people do feel this way, and as much as I would say that anyone who sees this and knows all the facts and is still supporting it, should never be able to hold office. Clearly, that's not the way the law works, and I think a lot of Republican supporters don't know all the facts or don't care but aren't holding office, so it's not really relevant. But I understand it as I should never take your opinion seriously and bringing it up because it's like, if you are seeing like, for example, I crashed out on Tali on Wick's panel because she's like, no, I understand. She has our side of it. She agrees with all the facts. She thinks it was illegal. She's not cool with it. And then she says, but I might still vote for them again. Right. And it's like, wait, why? And her argument is, well, I think it will hold. Or like, I think the guardrails will hold. It's fine because I didn't get away with it. I think that's fucking insane. But if a Republican, like if Sadie sees that, it's like, I don't really agree with the facts on that necessarily. I don't think this thing was, or even if they're like doing Tyler shit where it's like, well, it's not even illegal. It's just a different interpretation. I don't think these people are like deserve ire forever. I just think they don't understand it correctly. That's a very different thing. If someone's
Well,
like,
I mean-
I saw what he did and they should.
I mean, if you do
never
know
hold on.
everything about it, though, if you do know everything about it, though, as long as you come out and say like, "Hey, I fundamentally just don't really care all that much about democracy," then that's fine. We could move from there. I just wish that
for one,
people were more.
I don't care about democracy, to be completely
Yeah, and
honest with you.
I respect
care
that.
about
I just wish Republican. I respect that. I respect that. I just wish Republican voters were more.
Is something that you guys like to use as a buzzword, but that's not what we have.
I wish Republicans. I wish Republicans were a little more transparent with it. That's all.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's fine. I agree with you. I definitely don't agree.
What I see is like this idea, and the Bones even said that Trump is lying about 2020. That you have to get inside Trump's head and the people's head to think that they're lying.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Because everyone around him is showing him the facts.
No, they're not.
He is acknowledging.
We haven't heard that narrative. The majority of his admin
I have to push back against that. Trump. Look, let me read this to you. I need to read this to you, Tyler. Trump recognized he had lost to Biden when on the day of, before the fake electors plot happened. He asked advisors to tell him what had gone wrong. He comforted one advisor, saying, "We did our best." He told junior press aides, "I thought we had it," seemingly almost embarrassed by the outcome. But then his attitude changed. "I'm not going to leave. We're never leaving. How can you leave?" Like, this is completely irrelevant. Now, maybe he changed.
This is a quote from somebody.
Yeah, no, from Trump.
True.
This is a quote.
Hold on.
And he said he lost in interviews.
Secondhand quotes of what Trump said. Separated up.
The issue.
He had unsourced secondhand quote of fragments of sentences. That doesn't mean he admitted he lost. There's no way to prove.
No, hold on. Let's be clear, because it says here, how can you leave when you won an election? There might be a case where you could say, well, maybe in his brain he's like, I should have won this. I'm saying he's not conceded clearly, right?
There was no smoking gun.
People around him showed him the evidence. He saw that it wasn't fraudulent, and so maybe he's just so fucking stupid he can't understand it. But he knows that he's scrounging for exactly what he needs to win.
Hold on. Let me get my point out first. Let me get my full point out first. Hold on. Let me get my full point out first, because I watched the January 6th panel 4 times. I know all that was said. I know that they took half sentences in the January 6th panel as well, and half tweets, and then disregarded the rest. Didn't even put it up on screen. That being said, Trump has nothing to gain from this. His voters don't like it. He has 25% approval when he talks about the 2020 election. He doesn't get anything from it. The election's not being overturned. It's already in the past. Why would Trump keep repeating this? Why would he keep repeating that he actually won if he has nothing to gain from it?
We've gone from, Trump wasn't actually lying, we can't get into his head. Well, until now we're at, it doesn't matter actually. Trump.
He must not be lying, because he obviously he knows what's politically viable to him and never says anything stupid that alienates him.
Yeah, he's not. We have no proof that he's lying. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I disagree. Since you've watched the J6 committee thing, like, how is the example of him trying to fire Rosen if he didn't send the DOJ letter that he was told was inaccurate not like an example of
he has
knowingly lying about it?
Because he has 2 camps that are telling him 2 different things. He sided with one camp. The other camp said, no, that's not good. I'm not going to do that. So he fired the people that weren't doing the job that they're supposed to for him.
This is a particularized claim. Like, the letter said that the DOJ had identified multiple factors of impropriety or something along the lines of that. The Attorney General said, no, we didn't find that. The Attorney General said, no, we didn't find that. And then he tried to fire him and replace him with the guy that wrote the letter. How is that not an example of him knowingly lying to cause the DOJ
not knowingly
co-sign
lying? He could have just disagreed.
No, you can't disagree on whether or not the DOJ had. You can't disagree on whether or not the DOJ had found impropriety.
You can.
You can't disagree.
Hold on. Wait. I need to say something, because you did this fucking again. They are not approving them because they supported Trump. Both of these people that aren't being approved are election deniers. They said that Trump won the 2020 election, and that is why they're not being fucking approved. You disingenuous little fucks.
It's called First Amendment.
That's what an election denier is.
I'm gonna.
Right,
So,
somebody that supports Trump, I guess.
I'm going to start going down between some exchanges here. So I'm going to start with November 23rd, 2020.
Well, I'll save you the time. I'll save you the time. He's literally just going to say, "Oh, well, he had other people telling him separately." That's going to be only.
No worries. But yeah, so Attorney General Barr. I specifically raised the Dominion voting machines, which I found to be one of the most disturbing allegations. Disturbing in the sense that I saw absolutely zero basis for the allegations. I told them it was crazy stuff and they were wasting their time on that, and it was doing a great disservice to the country. And then 3 days later, on the 26th, Trump said, those machines are fixed. They're rigged. You can press Trump and the vote goes to Biden. All you have to do is play with a chip. And they played with a chip, especially in Wayne County in Detroit. Go back to December 1st, 2020. General Barr said, I explained. I said, look, if you have a machine and it counts 500 votes for Biden and 500 votes for Trump, and you go back later and you'll have 1,000 pieces of paper, and you put that through the machine, and if you see that there's any discrepancy, and there's none. And then Trump, 1 day later, in one Michigan county, as an example, that used Dominion voting systems, they found that nearly 6,000 votes had been wrongly switched from Trump to Biden. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is what we caught. How many didn't we catch? So
That sounds like he believes it to me.
I'm going to concede this.
after
Trump might be
General
so
Barr told
fucking retarded that he
Yeah, he
believes
might
the
just be a
election is stolen.
retard. Yeah, that's
I will
true.
concede
Yeah.
that. Because to be clear, in the quote I read, he did say within minutes of saying, "Yep, looks like we lost." No, actually, we won. No, whether or not he believed it, who can fucking say? But it seemed like he knew he
and
lost.
if Trump is too retarded
well,
to accept the facts, then,
yeah,
that's
does it-
just another reason to
This is why you
disqualify him
guys
because he can't handle
Yeah, if I have to
the fact
insult
that
He
Trump-
ran a retard, true.
if I have to
Fucking
insult
feelings.
Trump to get you guys to
Yeah.
accept reality, then I'll take it. Whatever.
Yeah,
wait,
this is
no.
why.
Is it
This
is
a
it
perfect
fundamentally
example.
is it fundamentally better to say that Donald Trump didn't actually try to steal the election because he thought he was so mind-numbingly retarded that he could never conceive with the idea that he lost an election? Is that
No,
better?
but if you said that with a
No.
shred of good faith, it would be better.
Yeah, exactly.
What's
I'm
bad
not
faith
going
about
to
Use a shred of good faith when you were
What's
framing
bad
that.
faith? What's bad faith?
A shred of good faith.
Hyperbolic bullshit.
What's
and
the-
you know
what's
it
the
is.
bad faith?
misinterpreting lawsuits. Yeah, you're right.
What's the bad faith?
That he's so
Yeah, everything.
mind-numbingly retarded that he believes
Well,
something.
yeah, that's the only other interpretation that
He
he has.
is.
He's not fucking
That's
lying.
your
You're
only
still
other interpretation.
No, well,
yeah.
here's the
Well,
thing.
You're
Here,
very
guys,
good.
Still wasn't ongoing at that
Hey,
point.
please. So get this. Like, let's say he believed the election was stolen. He thinks that there was fraudulence in Georgia. There was some sort of ballot stuffing. People were, writing in fake things,
Like in
fake
Connecticut.
ballots, whatever. Let's say, yeah, or in Connecticut. Let's say he truly believes this in his heart of hearts. Why would he then call up the people in Georgia and say, "Hey, can you just get me the exact number of votes that I need to beat Biden by one?" Why would he not say, "No, we need a complete investigation. Let's make sure all the votes are on the table"? Why would he specifically ask for that specific amount of votes to beat Joe Biden by one vote?
That's the way he talked. I don't know. There's multiple reasons for that, but
Who can
based
say?
on that phone call, he didn't
Who
tell
can
him to
say?
find votes that weren't there. You keep framing this. Ringgold already conceded. You're overstating what
Well-
was on that phone call.
Well,
I
I mean,
didn't concede that it didn't look bad. I'm saying that it's
well,
overstated as a silver
hold
bullet.
on.
It looks a little
just-
bad when you quote 3 words out of a sentence.
well,
here.
let's go back once again to like this kind of
There's
like
nothing
normie
exculpatory in that
person, like
video.
I like point of view, right? Like I don't think it's too far fetched whenever most people think like that. Oh, JFK was killed by the CIA, right? Like if they're thinking their own government could
Most
kill a
people don't
president,
think that.
I mean, sure. I'm not saying most people. There's a large
First of
large
all, it
segment.
was the Jews, Gibbs. Let's be clear.
Somebody killed JFK. All right, now, my personal bet's it's the mafia that then it'd be Johnson. Who knows? Whatever.
So
I don't
it's
give a shit.
Italian?
But like,
Damn,
well, anyway. Long story
Fuck
short, I'm over here going. I see all these people going, hey, I don't trust the government. There's all these collusion, all this cahoots. There's a deep state, etc., right? And then we have Trump going, oh, I couldn't do all these agenda things, and that's why we're clear because we had to put people in power the first time. Then now we can run with this office. And it's like he's cleaned out a system, right? That's kind of how it looks like to a lot of these people on the outside. And you go, oh. Well, we've seen all this lawfare in the last 4 years, and then now we're seeing Trump try to finally have enough people in office to kind of do his thing. And it's like, what does like stealing an election actually look like if he actually had people in there telling you that you don't think there's any possibility that the president might be getting different information and running with that from different people within like the FBI or like there's
Gibbs,
different
no,
groups
yeah,
of
yeah,
people
no, Gibbs,
like
this
different
is- this is-
factions within working in these organizations.
The reason I didn't believe this at first, because I was like, Trump surrounds himself with these like sycophantic yes men. Like, of course he probably like got told by the people who he wanted to hear this. The difference is people in his own inner circle who he otherwise would have listened to were the ones saying like, hey, you didn't win. Hey, there isn't fraud. Hey, your own DOJ is telling you this. So it's like past the point of like all the yes men are also telling him it wasn't stolen. That's why we think he thinks it was not stolen and is just lying because he wants to win. But
By the
like,
way, it wasn't even just his attorney general. It was, okay, I have an attorney general. Was the election stolen? Then Bill Barr says no. And then he's like,
Well,
okay.
No, hold on.
Was it stolen?
You
Are you sure
say
that it's like he asked him so many times that
No,
Barr resigns, and then he appoints a new person, and he's like,
well, hold
"Hey,
on.
do you think the election was stolen?" And he goes, "No." And he goes, "Okay, I'm gonna fire you."
Okay, let me try this a different way because I think maybe y'all are not getting where a lot of these people are coming from, right? Like, okay, do you agree within the Democratic Party there's factions? Like, there's okay.
Yeah,
So would
yeah,
you
of
agree in the Republican Party there's also factions?
Barely.
Yeah, sure.
Not to the same degree.
Not now as many, but there's still a few. But okay, at the time when Trump was first coming up, would you say Mike Pence was put in there as vice president as like a olive branch to the old power?
Of course, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Probably.
and so I have heard people come here and on with a straight face go, "Oh, well, Pence was a Trump guy." You know, and it's like, no, that's not true.
No.
He was the establishment guy that was brought in as a peace offering, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and he was
the like homophobic Bible belter guy
Sure,
to
whatever.
make up for the fact that Trump wasn't
Yeah,
particularly
Pence
religious and
was
kind of was
the-
viewed
was the-
as
yeah, you
more
can
left on
spin
certain
however you want to
policies.
spin it, but he's not a Trumper,
Just
right?
spin it,
Like,
man.
but he's the traditional neocon from like I guess wherever,
Right, and there's a reason he's not vice president right now.
Sure, I agree because now it has become more MAGA, right? But what I'm sitting here saying is when y'all go, oh, well, hey, Barr was Trump's guy. I'm like, how many of these people were really Trump's guys and were just like
They were
establishment
appointees.
people? And whenever all these people like, oh, we want Trump to get rid of the Uniparty, and that's these people.
Yes. No, Gibbs, you're 100% right. Because of how many people he had to go through in the first administration who otherwise supported him die hard, who are now just like, holy shit, you're insane because this is so clearly not true. So either you're lying or you're misleading. Now he has to choose people who are so sycophantically dedicated to him that they will tell him anything he wants to hear to get their agenda done. It is so much worse. That's why his administration is so much worse now.
It's
What's
wild.
the term? Like team crazy or something like that?
It's wild how this framing is to me because like, politicians are allowed to believe things that are not factually true. We have one party that says you can switch your gender at will, and we're talking about how the other side is just honest and swallow it. Like,
the election
this is wild to me. This is
Gibbs,
wild to me.
Can we run a panel on why the right can't let go of trans people's cocks, please?
This is we're making policy on it right now. Policy is being made on
you
this
pardoned
right
the
now.
J6ers.
I didn't do anything.
J6ers.
I didn't do anything. We have
actually,
one
Tyler's
party
a
that
Democrat.
believes.
I don't want trans women to play in sports.
You're playing defense for
I'm a Democrat before they went crazy. So we have we have one
you
party
sound like
that
a
believes
Democrat.
in a visible sky man and there's systemic pedophilia leading the government. We have another side that believes you can switch gender at will and meritocracy is white supremacy. So I'd say mostly all of our politicians have these
These are about the
deluded,
same thing.
unrealistic worldviews.
All of gender theory is about the same thing as stealing the election and believing.
I didn't
About
say it
the
was the
same
same
thing.
thing. All I'm talking about is people believe things
No,
that
you are.
are
You're
not
literally like,
factually
well, you're up
proven.
on Trump for believing the election was stolen.
No,
but
hold
you
on,
think a
hold
person can
on,
be a
hold
woman
on.
if they're a man. Like,
Hold on,
You've been throwing out some wild
you're saying
hypotheticals
that
there, 'cause,
Trump
like, who
is
he's saying,
mind-
I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, they're intentionally
These aren't-
just
most of them aren't
deflecting because they
hypotheticals. They're just
know that this
realities.
point completely crushes them right now. You're saying that Trump is
I mean,
retarded. Trump is retarded. There's no debate. It's not real. Trump is retarded because he believes things that aren't real. But our party inside believing things that aren't real, don't worry about that because it's not a big deal.
Here, Tyler, do you think that a trans woman thinks they're biologically shifted their,
I
chromosomes?
don't care what a dude thinks that wears lady face.
Okay, so you don't give a
You don't
fuck about the
care.
actual
Okay.
topic.
So
Yeah,
do
I
you
don't
think that
care.
I think they've transformed the biology? Because I respect their pronouns.
I don't know if you do, but I'm telling
Well,
you
ask me.
what the politicians in the party
What
are
do you think the
doing.
politicians think? Do you think they're all like, yep,
Yes.
chromosome shifted? Do you think they
Yes.
literally think this?
Oh my
Yes, the
God.
trans
Oh my
woman is a
God.
real woman and should go into women's sports, women's bathrooms, women's spaces. Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot they have chromosome checkers at the fucking bathrooms. It's so crazy.
And by the way,
we have
You think there's
laws.
any- you think there's any money in that?
identifying trans women as women is equal in severity as stealing
I
the
didn't
election.
say it was.
That's what we're
not talking about that. You guys are dodging the point.
It's worse.
You said Trump. Yeah,
point is
Trump,
January
Trump
6th.
lied, so everyone around him that believes his lie is a
when
sycophant.
Enrique
But when we tell
Tarrio
things that aren't true,
told
everyone's
the
just
Cowboys
being
to go storm the
innocent.
Capitol. All I
It's-
thought about was
if there's an R in
man,
front of the
this
name-
person's walking into the woman's bathroom.
Like,
If
Yeah,
there's an R in
genuinely
front of the
claim-
name, it's
claim-
bad. If there's a D in front of the name, it's different. It's all you're giving
you
me
genuinely
right
believe that the factual claim there is the same as, hey, I need you to say that the DOJ found fraud, and then the Attorney
No.
General saying
I
no,
know, I
and
don't
then
think-
saying, okay, I'm going to
now.
fire
No,
you.
no, you're comparison policing
Okay, so
that.
the
hold
lying
on.
is a different level. That's
It
the
doesn't
point.
matter.
It's a
Your
different level of
comparison,
severity.
yes, I understand that. Doesn't make my point invalid.
It makes it a dishonest,
just
like,
compared-
fucking
no, it doesn't.
question
Why would
of,
you
like,
no, it
like, this
doesn't.
is literally
No,
what
it
Gibbs is
doesn't.
talking about, where it's like, oh, so anything we talk about, you'd bring up January 6th, and it's like, yeah, I think this president doesn't truly
you
believe this. Like,
made a
okay,
point.
well, what about men
what
being
about
women?
women?
I do think I
You
do.
made
Hold
a
on.
point that he was being dishonest, and
Hold on.
everybody
I
that
think
now
that-
supports
I think-
him after his dishonesty is a sycophant. I'm pointing out to you where the other side was dishonest, and you're saying supporting them.
I
Not a
think-
big deal.
I think that-
in the women's restroom.
Well, hold on.
You guys
Hold on.
remember,
I
guys,
think
Joe
that
Joe Biden said there were at least 3 genders.
Lying about
and
Joe
then
Biden's
a
age
bunch
is
of
a
people
level.
around him.
Hold on.
A bunch of people around him said that wasn't true. Then he fired all of them. And then when he got reelected after that, he then tried to install only the trans people into the office. I
Joe
remember
Biden
this
was
happening.
firing people from the CDC who weren't going along with his COVID vaccination policy. The head stepped down because he wanted to give COVID vaccines to kids without verified proof, the booster shot. So
Well,
yes, Joe Biden was doing the same thing.
Well, hold on.
This is the
I
same
do
thing.
Fucking wild.
think that part
My
of
side-
I
the
think,
other side-
hold on, I think
I
there's a
found it
slight, hold on, I think there's a slight difference here, right? In the fact that, okay, there has been some like legislative push, and there was even in the last election, the whole like tampon Tim came up, and yeah, I get that Republicans are going to blow it out of the proportion on this because they feel it's like indicative of the greater culture war. They're like, if we let this go, what's going to go further, right? And I mean, I think we all know that like on both sides, extremists push the conversation, right? Like right now, the Dems have like Madani or whatever, right? He's pushing the conversation as whether we should go more right or if y'all should go like further to the left, right? Like that's kind of what happens. You have these people that come along and push an extreme thing, and I think with trans issues, the push had been kind of extreme for a while, like women with the sports thing especially. Right. And I think that now you're seeing like a backlash to norm. Like I talked to some of my friends who are like liberals and like trans individuals, and a lot of them are very upset with what they feel the Dem messaging has been, even though they still vote Dem. They're like, we just wanted to be left alone and have equal rights. And instead, y'all pushed us like to the forefront in a lot of cases. And now they're just catching strays because like they just want to live their lives and like be happy or do whatever. And that like most Republicans would have let that go. But since it went so far one way, now you're seeing the pendulum come back, I think, in a way that, you know, they're not liking. And I think that that's a big issue. I think it's different, though, than, like, with the way the January 6th just, like, keeps being brought up. Like, there's no legislation being brought up based off January 6th currently.
Pardon the J6.
Yeah, wait. To be
That's not
fair,
legislation.
this literally a couple weeks
That's
ago,
executive action.
they
They're two different
held
fucking
an honorary like fucking memorial for Ashley Babbitt, one of the people who was violating the law and
Yeah,
climbed
but it's
through
not
the
like
window.
legislation.
And
Is that policy?
I will say this, deserved to get gunned down for what she did.
Okay, but
So,
yeah,
like,
but can you tell me how that turns into policy, though? How does that?
Because-
How
She fucked around, she found out.
because the current president is still harping on the fact that everything that happened on January 6th was okay. It was good to the way it happened. He deserved to win the election. That's not what we're like. It's not like, oh, we're just bringing it up out of nowhere. It's like, oh, clearly this guy is still a fucking issue with the fact that he thinks it's okay to steal an election and is actually going to give pardons to the people that helped him do it or tried to do it. Like, that's fucking insane. That deserves to be brought up too.
I mean, you don't think it could have been he thought it was going to help the nation heal by like, oh, let's just give him pardons and then we can all heal and move on, like Nixon? You don't think that might have occurred to him?
Pardoning the people who stomped on Capitol police officers' heads is
Listen,
going to
I was
heal
okay.
the nation?
Hold on. I was perfectly okay. And I came on before this happened. I said, if I was Joe Biden, I would pardon Hunter Biden. I would do it like it's family. If you think I'm president and I'm not passing out pardons to everybody in my family for any potential illegal thing they've ever done, you're wrong. I'm absolutely gonna do that. Like, let's fucking go. Like,
remember when Hunter Biden stomped on a police officer's head?
yeah, I mean, you know, but we are on record doing all sorts of crimes, and he could have done worse. He could have done
I will
worse.
say, look, Gibbs, let me build a bridge. I think Hunter Biden should go to jail for smoking crack and probably fucking underage girls, allegedly. All right? I'll say it.
Money laundering and fire
but if you're the president, you're going to pardon your son. You're going to pardon your son. You know it. I know it. That's what you're going to do.
No, I mean, maybe, but I don't think you should. I think it's corrupt.
Yeah, well, I would do it. Fuck it. I mean, maybe it makes me corrupt. I don't know, but it doesn't make me like I'm not sussed out about it. Let's just make it like you good. You're not going to go after the family.
What if Joe Biden had like
I think it's good to pardon people,
and
like,
all of Joe Biden's sons stormed the Capitol and tried to help him steal the election? Should he pardon?
But it shows like mercy. You don't think it's good to show mercy and like give people like out?
Trump nurtured that poor man who stomped on the Capitol police officer's head.
What about all the rappers that have gotten pardons? Are you against the rappers getting pardons?
I remember.
I think we should do it. No, you're right. Gibbs,
His
we should
hand
pardon
came out
every
of the
person for
quick-
every crime right now to heal the nation.
True.
I mean, let's get wild with it. Get real
Let's
crazy.
go. Everyone should be released from prison tomorrow.
And then we'll just go right
Yeah.
back to like
Let's do
even
the
more
best.
draconian laws right after.
Wait, Joe,
everybody get a
didn't
clean
Joe
shot.
Biden give clemency to a guy that killed police officers?
Yeah, that was bad. I think he give like thousands. He did like this massive pardon.
Also-
super.
Well,
Did you
well,
vote
that's
Democrat
because of
after that?
that's
Why
because
did you vote Democrat?
of the
You
auto
took
pin
offense?
though. But that's the
Uh,
auto
that
pin, don't you
clemency-
know?
That clemency didn't let him out of jail, though, did it?
Why didn't you vote? Why'd you vote Democrat after that? You must
That
be a
clemency,
sycophant.
that
Because
clemency
that wasn't
didn't,
violating
didn't
the
let him out
fucking
of jail, did it?
democratic
That
process. It was,
clemency- that
hey, I think
clemency
this was a
didn't let
bad
him-
decision.
Stopping on a cop
Clement-
side is violating a democratic process.
Did
It was
that clemency
in participation in
furtherance
trying to
of-
violate
yeah.
the democratic process. Yes.
It was in furtherance of stopping the certification of the election. Did that clemency
was
that
a good action.
Biden gave? Did the clemency that Biden gave let that person out of jail?
No, but he issued clemency to him. Doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Did the pardon that Trump gave let the person who stomped on the Capitol police officer's head out of jail?
Yes.
Okay, that's the difference.
Doesn't matter. He still gave him clemency.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
kids.
still bad.
Okay, yeah,
He's
sure,
still
yeah,
commuted
that's
it.
fair.
Bad.
He also
It's-
commuted death sentences for
I don't even know
multiple murderers.
what.
and
I don't even
police
know what to
murderers.
say about that, man.
Well, I know
Gibbs,
what
do you think that
Go ahead.
Clemency and
Donald
pardon are
Trump,
damn
Donald
near
Trump
the
should
same
heal the
thing.
nation? Donald Trump should go up and say, "I'm granting amnesty to every illegal, all 60 million of them tomorrow, to heal the nation."
True.
Eventually, get a better Trump impression.
Why would he do that?
Wait,
He's
say that
elected
again. I'm
before
sorry. I missed it. I cut out.
I said, should Donald Trump grant amnesty to 60 million illegal immigrants?
Well, do you know what's crazy, Soy? Is you want to know what? You weren't here for this. I will grant you this. Before the election, I offered, because my cattle were getting fucking killed and then all this shit, I said, I will sit here. If you will build me the most crazy border wall, I'm talking North Korea level, like stopping everything that goes through. Maybe we do something for the animals. I don't know. And then I will grant every illegal alien up to a year. Like, that gets here before a year. Let's give them all amnesty. If everybody gets here before, give them to them. But I want the border secured, and let's
There's
make
no
them all
more after
citizens.
that.
But no more after that. No one would give that to me. I said, yeah, bring all these people. Give them a whole year. So,
Well,
like, yeah,
you know
I
what,
mean,
Gibbs?
maybe I'd
I
be okay
respect
with that.
answer. I respect that answer. I don't respect how no one corrected me when I said 60 million.
Yeah. Well, it would have been 60 million if we get it free whatever.
It's only
But
gonna
There
keep
might
growing,
be.
okay?
It's been
Look,
11 million for the last
say
3
that in 80
decades.
million
So.
Ameri-
thought you were
illegal
being funny.
aliens.
Every time they say it, it
Oh,
grows
90
up.
million.
Eventually,
I mean-
all 330 million.
are you? I
Americans
mean,
are
why
gonna
is
be illegal.
Newsom?
Can't
Why?
believe
Hold on.
all
Why is?
600 billion illegal immigrants.
Well, why is Newsom worried about the?
I still want to keep.
They're being
Well,
imported
hold on.
into
Why
the
is
US.
Newsom worried about the ICE coming to the polling stations? Then if it's
Oh,
not
okay. Wait, I have a
stealing
very good
elections.
faith answer to this. Okay, and you don't have to believe me, but I think this is very obvious. Okay, illegal immigrants legally can vote. We all understand this, right? Like, obviously, and I think we can all agree, maybe not some of the lefty, but they shouldn't be able to vote, right? They are not documented. Okay, cool. So we all agree there.
I agree.
So when you have ICE at polling stations, based on the things that ICE has been doing, and I know, by the way, Tyler's going to jump all over me into this, but I think this is so patently obvious. I don't understand how you don't. So I really want to hear why this is wrong. When you have people who have families who are undocumented, but they themselves are not. So let's say they were born and they were anchor babies. You could disagree with the citizenship, whatever. They are legal citizens. They can vote. Based on the way that ICE has been operating in the past few months, they might be worried that if they show up to the polls, ICE might connect them or go after their families. If their mom drops them off, if they, hey, like, you're writing down your address, by the way, we're going to ask you some questions. Do you not understand that some of these people who are legally supposed to vote might have some sort of chilling effect based on the way that ICE has been going into schools, showing up
I
at
agree with you.
workplaces, even rounding people up? Okay, thank you. That's all
I agree
the
with you.
argument I would say. It's
I
that-
think that like ICE or heavy police presence at polling stations, no matter what, are going to intimidate people. I would be nervous walking up to a polling station with a ICE MRAP in front of the polling station.
Wait,
or
let's
anything
see your 23 and me, Sadie. Why would you be nervous?
Absolutely not.
It's just I don't like the police presence like that.
So-
Like, I do have a lot of issues with rolling into cities and taking away guns from trans people. Like, these conversations, I am like a true libertarian at heart. So yeah, I do have
Well, I
concerns
mean,
about
Sadie, you've won me back.
Really, I mean, who cares? Who cares if they get to vote? Realistically, though, I mean, let's be
Well,
real.
okay, no, wait. I want Tyler to talk about it before we go crazy.
Oh,
about
buddy,
illegal
brother,
immigrants
switch.
voting.
Wait, before
So-
we
I,
go
First
don't,
off-
I do think that was a stupid thing for the right to take and run on, because I knew what he meant as soon as he said it too.
Well, no.
Hold on, I'm
No.
going to jump in here too before you moderate. Let me jump in here before you moderate. So, in several cities and states, illegals can vote in state and local elections. One, two of the
Yes.
people you're talking about chilling are those harboring illegal immigrants, is what you're saying. Like somebody's mom dropping them off, the mom is there illegally, then she gets picked up, right?
Okay,
Is
so
that what
wait,
that's
are
your-
you under the prescription that anyone with undocumented family should right now go and turn them into ICE?
No, but you're saying it's a
There's a
chilling effect.
reward. There's a reward
We're
for it, by the way.
chilling
If you do.
people harboring a criminal, is what you're saying, right? If we're
Yeah, so
chilling
you think
people,
those people shouldn't be allowed to
commit-
vote because they're harboring a criminal, as you so put
yes,
it?
because that's a crime. I don't think they shouldn't be able to vote. I think if they're worried about police, that's because they're committing a crime, and the police are there to chill criminals from committing crimes. So yes,
No,
It's not going to
to
stop
chill
them
them
from
from
harboring their
voting, not
family,
to
to
chill
be
them
clear.
from committing crimes. Yeah, to chill them from voting.
it's not. I mean,
Yeah.
if
You got a
they're
little
not
bit,
breaking.
little weed warrant, dude. No
Yeah, like-
felonies,
And
a little bit of
wait,
a warrant. You want to
let me-
show?
If they're not harboring illegals, they have nothing to worry about.
Wait, Tyler. In which state can undocumented migrants?
Not
vote in
California
state elections?
specifically.
There are
Yeah.
local elections where they're like,
It was
No, no,
just
local
changed
elections.
in
No, there's
Arizona.
legal
There's a handful of
immigrants.
local elections, but I'm talking about state elections. What
there are
states?
none for the general. That doesn't happen. In
That
That's general,
we're
yeah, it's all
aware
state
of.
and local. It's all local elections.
Well,
But Arizona's
Just-
law
just
was
a handful
just
Nothing
of
changed
federally.
elections,
that they aren't allowed to vote in state and local elections anymore. So they were before that point.
Well,
Well,
The law
Here,
was just
Tyler,
changed last year.
Tyler, do you get nervous when there's like a cop at an intersection, even if you're not committing a crime?
I
No,
would.
I do.
I
I
do.
hate the cops.
I used
I
to
do.
when I smoked weed in the car, not anymore.
Right. So it's like
Now you can
even
smoke in front of
I
them.
think to Sadie's argument, like even just the police are going to have a chilling effect on some people. But I understand, like, hey, this should make sure that nothing bad is happening or someone's committing a crime here. I don't think that police can exist there. I think ICE is a completely different story, especially when we have stories. And this is funny because let's say there was one story that blew up and it was totally out of proportion, but one story where a legal person who had no harboring of illegal family, as you so put it, was arrested, detained for a few days. They realized their mistake and they let them out. That in and of itself, that story is going to perpetuate this chilling effect for all of the ICE agents, even though it's completely irrational to worry about. It's only this one person out of tens of thousands that have been arrested. That in and of itself is already doing that. And that's why they're doing this. They're not putting them there because they're like, well, we got to stop the illegals from voting. Because when the illegals vote, if this was a thing that was happening in the general election, their signatures wouldn't be verified against their addresses because they're not registered to vote. They're doing it because they know it's going to get rid of a disproportionate amount of Democratic Latino voters who might otherwise be harboring illegal aliens.
Or in multiple cities and counties in California, illegals can vote in state and local elections, including San Francisco, Oakland, and all
Why
of Orange County.
would this matter if their votes couldn't be counted in the state elections?
They can be counted in the state and local elections.
No,
And
they
Well,
can't.
hold
They're
on.
not
Why
registered
would,
to vote.
hold on. Why would
Now
it matter?
we're
I'll tell you
going
why it
backwards.
would
Who
matter.
can't vote in state elections?
No, hold on.
You just said they can't vote in the election that they're putting the ICE people at the polling station
Well,
for.
hold
So
on,
let's
hold
just say illegals were showing up and draw 10,000 illegal immigrants shut up. They all voted.
Elections
None
all
of their
one at
votes would
one.
be counted.
Well,
Yeah.
hold
It's
on.
not just
the
the general
federal
they're talking about.
elections line up with the state elections almost all the time.
Well,
and then
no,
there's much
there's
more
there's
state
hold on.
elections.
There's a worse issue than this, right? Like you go, why would it matter if they're just doing local elections? And
No,
I
no,
would
no, 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 wait, Gibbs, that's not what I'm saying.
But
I'm saying, let's say they were voting illegally,
in,
right?
in local
Like,
elections.
No. Illegally
None of these-
voting
none of these
in the general, like the midterm,
Federally,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, in federal elections, they're voting in these that they're not allowed to.
Okay.
Their votes would not be counted.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
It doesn't matter
that's
if ICE
not
is there.
that's not the problem. That's not the problem. The problem is we all here know, since we're all politically active, that the local elections are where it matters the most, right? Because you can set policy for your city, you can change things like some of these are just like very small margins, like 20, 30 votes in some counties, like it's small. And now if suddenly we allow illegals to vote in a local election and they're all voting one way, and this party now sets new policies that enables them to maintain power. This is going to stack up more power within the state over time as more and more counties come under their flow. Like, why would you not see that as a problem? Going forward.
But I understand that, Gibbs. But that and we can talk about this right after. But there are 5 municipalities that allow this: San Francisco, Oakland, Tacoma Park, Burlington, Vermont, and Montpelier, Vermont.
Sure.
Okay. Why would Trump not say, if this is true, what Tyler's saying, that he's worried about them voting in these elections, hey, we're putting ICE at these places, but nowhere else?
I mean, I personally think you should have them all over the place. I feel like there's been a lot of people voting.
You think there's tons of illegal immigrants voting?
I mean, I think possibly. Maybe in
Do you
California.
think that these
Okay,
votes are
so
getting counted?
despite every investigation into this, Trump himself trying to do this and not being able to find this happening, when he said, I think that X amount of millions of votes were for Hillary Clinton were for this, then doing an investigation and not being able to find it at all.
I
you
just
still
I
think
I
that it's
think I'm
happening.
not saying that it's happening. I'm saying what are we worried about if we don't just do it for once? We're already in the middle of this big policy push, right? If there's
Because
any concern, if there's any
Because
concern about
the
this
votes will
overall,
get counted.
Because I think what's really going to happen, and the real reason behind this, and I can't prove this, by the way, but I think the real reason, and I base this off of the precedent of Republican actions, is to deter people who would otherwise legally vote for Democrats from going to the polls. In the same way that I always bring up the South Carolina law, where they said, let's do voter ID. And voter ID is something that, in principle, everyone can agree on, right? Like, people who say they're who they are should probably show and prove that they're who they are, right? This is just an obvious thing. I think everyone in principle can agree with. The problem is in this place in South Carolina, they said, well, we've specifically picked the IDs that we know Democratic voters, which they said is the reason, but turned out also to be black people. Black people don't have, just disproportionately. So it's not your license or whatever. The only ones that are available are these ones. And then the Supreme Court of South Carolina says, hey, your law targeted black people with surgical precision to not show up. Or at the very least, if they want to say I wasn't racist about it, was targeting Democrats. So when I see this ICE thing, and I know it's going to deter a non-zero amount of legal, probably Latino voters based on the way that ICE is operating, I think the real reason they're doing it is not to enforce election integrity, which we both agree. I don't think illegal immigrants should vote in the federal elections, but that's not why they're there. They're there to deter legal people from voting. And I bet, even if that's not why they're there, I bet I would make a bet with you that more people will be deterred who are legal than people who are illegal who are voting.
we'll see. But we're about that. Hold on, we're about that time. So I'm gonna let y'all do closings and outros here because we got about 5 minutes left, and that's perfect. So Tyler, why don't you kick us off? Whatever you're gonna say, give us your closing and all your and outro and all that good jazz.
All right, I will just say there's been multiple studies now, the latest one in 2024 by Pew, showing that voter ID does not at all infringe on the black vote, and it's racist to suggest that black people are too stupid to get a state ID.
wait,
I never
was he
said they
talking
were
about
too
voter
stupid.
ID?
Hold on,
Hold
I
on, this
didn't
is
say
my
this.
closing. This is
That's
my
a closing?
closing. You don't get it. Yep. You don't get to interrupt.
All right.
Fire. Fire.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, keep
So
going.
I was just making a narrative. I'm having fun with it, guys. Relax. At the end of the day, I still think this is because the Democratic Party is flailing for a message. They've been trying to throw everything that at the wall with Trump. A lot of it is bullshit. Some of it had some legs behind it, but didn't have enough to actually take him down. He's still Teflon Don. And most of the people that are going against him don't realize that the public dislikes them and their policies significantly more and are willing to look past Trump on this. At the end of the day, I view right now the Democrat moderates are the exact same in almost every policy stance as the extremists. They just have better PR and incrementalism to implement it as opposed to slam it all in right now and screw the other side. So I think that the Democratic Party needs a massive reform. Everyone here has probably heard my thoughts on Fetterman, and that's because I'm a Fetterman simp, but I'd say Whitmer probably has the better chance of actually winning a general election because she's the Rust Belt senator. Only 280,000 votes in the Rust Belt, lost this election for the Democrats, and she would be much better suited for those people. On top of that, she doesn't have almost any of the extremist points that the rest of the party has that most people hate. She's not pro-illegal immigration. She's not anti-police and pro-criminal. You don't see soft on crime, smart on crime policies coming from her. So at the end of the day, the Democratic Party needs to pretty much drop 80% of what they're doing, go back to their basics. They need to get back on healthcare, especially the Medicaid cuts that came in the new BBB bill, Trump's BBB bill. They need to go back to abortion, even though that didn't pan out too great in 2024. It's still one of their top topics, and they need to go back to schools. These are where they excel, and they've just dropped all these things to become the anti-Trump party. It didn't work. 2024 litigated January 6th, and if Trump was electable again, and he won with even wider margins and more votes. Meaning that at the end of the day, even if you're saying all these things you're saying about Trump are right, you have to ask yourself, why is he still more popular than you if he tried to overturn an election and refuse to completely get rid of democracy? And that's it. It's because the other side doesn't have a coherent message, and this is their comfort zone that they keep going back to every time they start taking L's on everything else. So they need to do better.
Well, two things. Someone just sent me a Just Facts article that says that 10 to 20% of non-citizens may be illegally registered to vote, and up to 16% of them may have voted in past elections. That's interesting. And two, I don't know if it helps or hurts Republicans when your favorite candidate our favorite politician is a guy that had a stroke, and seems like a totally
Which
different
one?
person.
Oh, Fetterman.
I don't know. If
Yeah,
that's a
No.
good selling point for us, but
it's biased.
I
It's
guess
biased, I know.
we'll take whatever we can get in our temple of
Tyler
undesirables.
likes, candidates who have strokes.
But yeah, go ahead, Bones,
But
and
can you actually
Pro
send
Israel
that,
candidate.
yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Bones.
Gibbs,
You go.
can you actually send that link, by the way? I'm
Sure,
actually
yeah.
curious.
I will.
All right, so first off, in response to Tyler's little tidbit about voter IDs, this is specifically North Carolina. This isn't voter ID laws as a whole. So in North Carolina, that law was struck down specifically because it had targeted black voters with surgical precision. Voter ID laws can still be nonpartisan and not racist, and we can still acknowledge that that specific one was bad. On top of that, this entire debate, he's also been debating the theoretical Democratic Party and not Bones of Doom, Soy Pill, and I forget your name.
Ringyald.
Ringyald.
Ringyald. So he's been doing that the entire time, shadow boxing. As far as we're concerned, Trump is unequivocally a terrible fucking person. January 6th alone is enough evidence for that. All of the events of him denying the election, specifically lying to the public, even after several people in his cabinet keep telling him otherwise. Not on top of that, pardoning everyone in Jan 6th, giving Ashley Babbitt the Warriors funeral, like all of this should have disqualified him as a president. And quite frankly, none of this was nothing of what Tyler really said here, because he's the one making all the major contentions here. Really is convincing to either me or anyone else on the panel. And honestly, a lot of it was pretty fucking disingenuous attempts at kind of pushing away from that issue and obfuscating the actual facts of January 6th. And we should continue to talk about this as its moral condemnation of Trump specifically, and especially while he's president. We should be able to condemn past, present, and in the future any of his other terrible fucking actions.
All right,
Someone's hurt.
Ringyald.
Yeah, you can find me at Ringyald on all of the relevant social media places. Again, it was good talking to most of you guys for the first time. I have a proposition for all of the Trump voters. I think this is a solid compromise in the middle. We will all agree as leftists to stop talking about January 6th as long as Republicans abandon the facade of being pro-democracy. And we'll be good.
No problem.
So, okay. I think as long
No
as that
problem.
happens, I think we're good. All right. I love you guys.
Ringyald, boom, handshake. We're good.
All right. Well, perfect. Sadie, go ahead.
Sadie, I'm Sadie Girl 216 on X. I'm Pentuple TV's alt account. For those of you wondering where he is, he will be back soon. I know it's been a while, but there's only a few Sadie streams left. We're coming towards the end of it. I'm an old lady. I'm 40 plus years old. I've had the privilege to vote for George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Gary Johnson, and Trump 3 times. And it was the Democrats that lost me, like not the other way around. The fear mongering, the Trump is this horrible person, has gotten you into a place where now you're losing the popular vote, which don't lie. That was a surprise to all, even me. I was even concerned about making that claim. But the writing's on the wall. The one president that I do wish I had the ability to vote for was Bill Clinton, because I do think that he was a great president. And I do think that the country was left in better shape after Bill Clinton than moving into the Bush eras. The Bushes are the ones that taught me how to hate the right. So the Democrat Party needs to shift. You need to regroup, and you need to get back to the common sense policies that made me a Democrat to begin with and why I'm not anymore.
All right. Thank you so much. Ed Soybill.
Yeah, just to really clarify on the voter ID, because Tyler's posting links, like people support it. Yeah, like I said, most people support the concept of a voter ID. The problem is not that, oh, black people don't know how to do it. The problem is when states like North Carolina, I got to correct myself, say, hey, what kind of IDs are these people more just likely to have? And then say, cool, let's not let those be part of the ID law. It's specifically targeting them. Yes, black people have the capability of getting IDs. The problem is when it's really hard to do. You can go look at the Ari Shapiro video where he's like interviewing black people. They're in fucking Harlem or the local DMV is 2 weeks away or 2 blocks away. It's of course they can get it there. It's very hard in rural areas. If we do voter ID, give them to fucking everyone. Anyway, the reason we keep bringing up January 6th is because Trump tried to steal an election. He still hasn't admitted that he lost. It's fucking insane. The fact that we are like saying, oh, like just get over it is not something we can do when one, he's not over it. That's why he keeps pardoning people who tried to help him do it, who committed crimes, and like, honoring even the people who helped him commit this crime. But two, it's hard to have this conversation in good faith when I think I'm reaching out and maybe if I explain the facts, you guys will maybe switch sides. But then you bring up the not appointing Trump people, and I say, oh, well, yeah, I guess I don't agree with that. But when I look into it, turns out they're fucking election deniers too. Or say, oh, actually, this redistricting thing was part of this lawsuit. I say, oh, you know what? I didn't know it was about that lawsuit. When it turns out it wasn't, it was actually a predetermined thing they wanted to do before that lawsuit was even part of the fucking conversation. It's just so fucking disingenuous. I guess it doesn't really matter. Maybe we should just stop talking about Trump stealing the election. And we should just say, okay, these people are so fucking crazy and deluded that nothing we will say will ever get to them. We need to just overwhelm them with registering people to vote, or just once they turn full fascist, as Sadie seems to be sympathetic to, just kick them out. Just kick them out of the country. That's what I say.
Oh, well, thank you all for being here. This was a good one. I enjoyed it. I hope you all enjoyed it. And yeah, we're going to be continuing our subathon. If we reach our goal, our first prize is me getting a spray tan. We'll get a real dark one, so it's exciting September things. I can't wait to be a whole different person. It'll be fun.
Oh,
But
dark.
yeah, I kind of want to do that scene from Friends where he like does one side and turns around, does the same side again. I think that would be pretty comical. But we'll see. But yeah, thanks for all for coming. And y'all have a good rest of y'all's night.
You too.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you guys.
Good night.
All right, folks. What we're going to do is we're going to be switching over to some Helldivers, I think, maybe in a minute. Yes, I think we are going to do the Helldivers. I just fucked up. All right, there we go.